Good evening, Dota fans. Welcome to the AEL University League Grand Finals for Dota 2 here, Season 2, 2022. I am the Wandering Bard, and thank you so much for your patience. If you've been watching this stream for the last half an hour, wondering what's going on, you have my sincere apologies. We had to procure a substitute player for one of the Grand Final teams tonight after a wave of unfortunate illness has struck AUE Black, of course. They're in their spot in their Grand Finals, and it would be a shame not to have them participate, so I'm glad we were able to source a player, but it did take a little bit of time. So, fortunately, though, the wait has paid off, and now we have a proper 5v5 Grand Final series here between the two finalists who've worked so hard all season to be here tonight in this match. The UQ devoted lover Chads and AUE Black, they've both played scintillating seasons of Dota 2 here in the Uni League, and yeah, it's a pleasure to finally have them in the lobby. So thank you so much for your patience during that time. Had to make sure we knew what was going on before we confirmed anything with you at home, but now we can confirm we are going ahead with a best of 3 here. So, off to the draft. Obviously, the meta has evolved rapidly in the last couple of days, but with the international kicking off, it's hard for Dota to be more intense than it is right now. But obviously, not everything has changed. It's more been a sort of intense refinement, I think, of what we already sort of knew was the metagame of the patch going in. We've got Undying, obviously, still reigning over all as a top dog, but getting through the bans at least to appear in this game 1. Very exciting stuff. Undying over Snapfire, which has been taken by AOE Black, but of course, Snapfire pretty potent in terms of countering the Undying in the laning phase and thereafter. The Little Shredder is one of the better tools to just sort of quickly remove the Tombstone that can otherwise kind of be a beater for a lane or even for a team, right? Like, if you don't have the good capability to remove that spell, very difficult to overcome naturally. And now we can see this very strength-dominated meta start to take over. Pudge into Undying is a very interesting pick. Obviously, you might either assume that Pudge has enough, tankiness and just raw durability in the lane to endure the punishment that is Decay against the Strength hero, or perhaps this isn't a safe lane Pudge. Perhaps this is the off-lane Pudge, and you anticipate dodging the Undying support, whichever side of the map it goes to. That being said, though, UQ, they bounce back with a Primal Beast pick, being very popular across multiple core roles at TI so far in the last chance qualifiers. Another core hero that's been popular is Morphling. He's added to the ban list, and rightly so. The hero is kind of busted right now with that Aghanim Scepter upgrade that allows him to steal stats. Kind of really one of the more dramatic changes that we've seen sort of taken up by the player base at TI, right? Like, it really messes with the carry matchups in the late game in particular, and given that Morphling is, pretty good at finding farm around the map, he's not an immobile hero. He can flash farm, he can play dangerous spots away from the team in the enemy jungle, that sort of thing. So he's been a hard hero to keep down, and when he dominates the late game against so many opposition carries, it really is kind of a in safe hands pick for your late game. So taking that off the table makes your opponent have to work a little bit harder to ensure they're scaling, and they have that taken out of the pool, as well as Timbersaw and Ursa, Silencer and Shadow Demon. Those are the UQ bans thus far. And of course, AOE Black, they have banned out Enigma, Marcy, obviously another very dominant carry pick, Lone Druid, Faceless Void, and for a little bit of spice from the support role, Winter Wyvern is banned out, which is an interesting one, right? Because you assume, well, so far Snapfire and Pudge, these are heroes that actually punish most of Winter Wyvern's tech very well. It's difficult to get a really powerful Winter's Curse off against these heroes they've picked so far, and so far all 3 of these heroes are very good at punishing, say, a Cold Embrace as well. So Winter Wyvern's sort of 2 biggest spells are being shut down here, but I suspect it's probably more to do with, for one, that the instant BKB piercing disable of the Winter's Curse is good against Core Pudge, who often, relies on having that lengthy channel disable of his own with a BKB up, and then of course the percentage health damage from the Arctic Burn, probably something they're worried about. It's interesting to me, though, that they're willing to pick Pudge into an Undying pick, but they're not willing to risk playing it into Wyvern. AUE Black, though, they clearly know what they're about. They certainly had a lot of time to consider their draft, although, but having to run around and find a sub under pressure at last minute for Grand Finals probably is pretty stressful. So we'll see whether or not they can settle themselves down, whether either team is able to settle down well and, really play up to the caliber we've seen them play all season. Certainly UQ with this Invoker pick, they're looking good, right? They've leaned on the Invoker a few different times throughout the playoffs when their backs have been against the wall. For a lot of this season, they've been doing it with unconventional picks, and this Grimstroke, in the last game we saw them play last week, with their tournament lives on the line, I believe, they picked up an off-lane Grimstroke, which is something I personally love to see in a game of Dota, but we'll see whether or not this is the same thing, right? They do have Invoker and Primal Beast. It's much more conventional core heroes, and even Undying as a probably more conventional and sound offlane choice available. But, the threat is there of this being perhaps some sort of sneaky support Invoker going Quas works and picking up the Spirit Vessel that you would really like to have very early on against this team, or perhaps it'll just be a core Invoker rushing that item. All the same, you have to keep in mind that this is a team that loves to change it up and shake it up in terms of their positions. They don't just play the default stuff. And what's more, their sort of quirky pocket pick drafts have tended to be successful more often than not, and that's the real seal of success there, right? Like, anyone can have a pet hero they think is kind of nice, and sort of talk about it, play it in scrims, but to pick it in officials in the finals of a tournament and to win with it consistently throughout, that is, the mark of a team who you really have to look out for in the drafting phase. And so, last couple of bans here are going to be crucial for AUE Black to not get got on the final pick by some unusual draft configuration. They have shored up their laning possibilities with a Lina, so obviously this could be a pretty potent support with either Pudge or DP. Both of them are sort of the kind of frontlining cores that you don't mind having a Lina lurking well behind, right? Providing a sort of counter-initiating presence in the lane at best, with her harassment and her stun. But, it also means that they can put the Lina in the mid lane if it's not favorable to DP or to Snapfire, and then they can, shuffle their cores around like that. When you don't know exactly what your opponents are going to do because they are this unpredictable team, that's probably the kind of draft that you need to be setting up for yourself in these games. It is going to be a best of 3 grand final, so the loser of this first game is sort of not without hope, but there's not going to be any sort of winner's bracket advantage. There's only going to be 3 games. So for AUE Black, you really still don't want to be dropping anything. You don't want to be just sort of going in there with something experimental or exploratory here in game 1. It is time immediately to put up your best Dota or shut up here in the Uni League Grand Finals. Devoted Lover Chads, they finally come through with a ban. They had removed the Juggernaut, now they add Medusa to the ban pool. So a very wide selection of physical damage carries being taken out. Assumedly, they're also banning things that are good against the Primal Beast or the Grimstroke, stuff like Juggernaut, very powerful there, able to shrug off spell combos, whichever heroes they come from. And they pick up the Naga Siren, which they have gone with before. Infamous Amos, I believe, playing that and doing a great job of it. So threatening that again. It's just some really nice late game insurance. And it's also great for setting up all their spells. Obviously, the Undying Tombstone has a nice combo. You can do an Invoker Cataclysm out of it if your timing on the Sleep Cancel is very good. Grimstroke can set up his spells. I believe you still charge up Inkswell standing next to a slept target. And Primal Beast can at the very least get into position for some devastating charges and ultimates. And AUE Black, they bounce back with another one of these heroes that's been really prominent at TI. It's the Clockwork, but that leaves the open question of what their lanes are going to be. It looks like it should be a mid lane Lina and a safe lane Pudge and maybe an off lane DP, but it's difficult to say for sure. We'll have to find out when we actually get into the game. But of course, before we do, I want to make sure that we thank our sponsors one more time here in the AEL Uni League. They are the reason that we're able to bring you this game, this series, this tournament as a whole. For several seasons now, Predator have been our gaming PC partner at AEL Uni League. Discover your next favorite game with Predator, thanks to over 100 high-quality games being available on your new Acer and Predator Gaming Windows 11 PC through the free 1 month of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. With new games added all the time, there's always something new to play on your Predator PC. And of course, you can also play it on your AOC Monitor to get the best viewing experience from the monitor partner of the AEL Uni League. They are a global leader in monitor display technology, and for more than 50 years, AOC has delivered an exceptional viewing experience to millions of loyal customers worldwide. And today, they offer a wide selection of stylish monitors for home, office, and gaming use. And of course, Rig, what it takes to win. Last but definitely not least, they are our headset partner here at AEL. They develop headsets that deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. So, enhance your gaming experience today, join the Rig team, and we will join the game here in just a moment, we are getting set up for the Grand Finals Game 1. I couldn't be more excited, everybody. Let's get into the game. So you can see here, we can run through the die very quickly. We have Unleashy, the captain here, on Snapfire. Going to be very likely, I think, a safe lane support for the Pudge that control. Played a variety of safe lane heroes, including, I believe, this Pudge before. Done a great job on almost all of them. Obviously, these two teams being our grand finalists, they're the cream of the crop. They have been putting up great numbers on all positions across all games. This is not really one of those lopsided years where there's been individual players who have had to take over matches and carry their team on their back, which I can really sort of spin the narrative around. It's been a team effort for both sides, but Psycho on the laner in the mid lane looking solid. We've got G on the Death Prophet holding it down, and this Clockwork Sakangina, I'm not sure which player this is. This is the sub. A few names were thrown around in advance. I might check with the teams between the games exactly who this is, but you may know already if you're a follower of these teams. Certainly, we're grateful to them filling in and to the other side for teeing up the match regardless of the weight. Speaking of the other side, Big Knee Lover being kind of the flashy player of this team in the 4 position, playing all these unusual heroes. Going to tee up another one today with the Primal Beast, actually going to get hooked up, intercepted the hook that was meant for the Bounty Rune, and of course, being that Primal Beast, one of the highest strength, one of the tankiest heroes in the game, shrugs that off, walks it off, and that's a Bounty Rune for the team, claimed by Neo on the Undying. Of course, we do have Gachi Muchi Champ, the inimitable Gachi, in the mid lane on this Invoker, been dominating fools all season, as you'd expect. He might be the one to bust this game opens. Especially as we see, starting with that Quas, maybe a hint at that Quas Wex Spirit Vessel build. It certainly wouldn't go astray against this kind of lineup, so, we'll have to see whether that is indeed what they go with. And Infamous Amos will be holding things down in the safe lane on this Naga Siren, running it back after a successful Naga Siren performance in the lower bracket finals just a week ago to help stabilize the team and help get them to this match. So, of course, you trust yourselves to put the game in his hands on the Fish Lady once again. But yeah, it's very interesting, these two lineups. By picking up an Naga Siren, you sort of anticipate a bit more of a defensive posture out of this team, but they do have potential Invoker combos or hero that can, either through Sunstrikes or just early rotations get very active. You've got Undying and Primal Beast also as heroes who peak very early on, and we can see Neo flexing his muscles in the laning phase. 16 stolen strength from that Decay, just laying down the good word on those die heroes, and you'd imagine that Infamous Amos sort of feels alone in the lane right now, which is ideal for all those anti-social carry players out there. Meanwhile, I did neglect to confirm Jenkins up top playing that core Grimstroke once again. Love this pickup for them. Don't love this for them, though. Big hook by Fat Control. Big Knee Lover, he who is full of bravado, walking off that first hook before the horn. Not so much that one. Getting brought down, it's actually the sub Clockwork who's able to get the first blood money, but just a casual hook from your carry Pudge there. It's always harder to get those hooks off as a carry playing Pudge, because obviously you can't just sort of wander around the lane and in all these sorts of weird spots in the trees and throw out hooks at unexpected angles. They're aware of you at all times, and yet just kind of catches Big Knee Lover napping. Primal Beast, I suppose, does have an enormous looking hitbox. Maybe that makes him easier to hook. I haven't really tested, but yeah, Big Knee Lover just kind of caught napping for just a moment, pulled into the tower and killed, and that's how we spill our first blood here in these grand finals. A bit of peace and quiet return to the lanes, though. Actually, Psycho, as I say that, is really getting ahead in this last hit battle over Gachi. So the Lena pick doing its work here. They were able to flex it in the mid lane as soon as they were able to confirm that Invoker matchup. It's probably what they expected, and Psycho looks very comfortable here so far. And Infamous Amos actually retaliates. I didn't expect this to be the lane that a kill goes down, but that's just the power of Undying and the power of Tombstone in the laning phase. Takes it level 2 on Neo and maybe catches G out. Wasn't expecting that early skill point. Sometimes you take Soul Rip level 2 instead. Or maybe you're just not expecting it to be deployed so fiercely, but Infamous Amos putting a point in the ensnare means that you can stack up the zombies enough, and that nice looking Tombstone claims ahead early on. 1-1 here. And actually, not quite. 2-1. There we go. Jenkins and Big Knee Lover. I can't remember exactly what the combo was the last game that they played this in. It may have been Primal Beast plus Grimstroke in the last week's set as well. But regardless, this is definitely the kind of lane you want to set up when you are playing a core Grimstroke. You definitely need this aggressive support like a Tusk, like an Ogre, like a Primal Beast that can run in and carry that Inkswell onto your target, set up just that chain of nukes, and these are two of the highest damage heroes in the laning phase. It's absolutely unsurprising that they're able to get that kill off under the tower, even against a Pudge, who, you know, if you're going to trust anyone to try and stay alive in the 1 position, that's kind of the point of the hero, but they have brought out the big guns to try and bring down the big man, and at least in their first attempt they are successful. So, definitely a tale of 2 lanes for these 2 different carries as Pudge sort of continues to take heavy pressure onto tower. This time might be his support wearing the brunt of it, though. Big Knee Lover trying to set up the onslaught. Can't actually do it against the battery assault, but ends up not having to. The damage from Grimstroke alone, plus that trample, is enough. And Sekang Ina, our clockwork for the day, filling in ringer, gets his bell rung by the UQ offlane. And that started to be reflected in the gold lead. Now a little bit going in the favor of the Queenslanders. They almost give up a kill in bottom, but Undying is tankier than he looks, and he walks it off. Still a slight edge in the mid lane to Psycho, although Gachi Muchichamp, despite having the early last hitting disadvantage from this Quaswex build that he has locked into now, 3 points Wex, 2 points Quas, so you don't have that Exort AD. That's part of the reason why he's been unable to keep up in the CS, one imagines, and he's starting to make it up now, as is the bottom lane, though, for the Dire. She gets a kill on Neo. Trades the support for it, but I'll take that kill if I'm the offlane DP. You desperately need to accelerate into some items here. You need to feel strong so that you can try and bully out Amos, but Amos is 2 levels up on this DP right now. More action in the top lane, incidentally. I'm sure that action is never really going to slow down, so we have to keep checking in. Fat Control does throw out another hook. Decently on the mark, but sometimes, you know, that's just not enough as Jenkins slips back behind the creep wave. Definitely a lane where it is beneficial to have this long-ranged core where you're not really at risk of getting exposed as a Grimstroke. You know, they picked off the support Primal Beast before, but that's not so bad as if that were your core. And actually, Psycho lost a lot of health here. I'm not sure whether he's just been intentionally trading on the assumption he'll be able to control these runes here, or whether he maybe got caught out a little bit by an Invoker combo, but he is going to be able to bottle some water runes. And meanwhile, on the top lane, Big Knee Lover, they charge up another stun combo. Clockwork actually walks into it, but it's not going to help out Fat Control. You can't share that damage. And Gachimuchi Champ actually does down Psycho, as I think Neo. I was going to make a comment before that action happened top that there is an assumption you'll get that water room, but Neo and UQ as a whole have been very good throughout all their games at controlling these early runes for their mid laner. They understand what an important part of their game plan his lane dominance is, and so they actually get a kill on the Lena for her trouble, and Jenkins will not stop in the top lane. They bring down Sekangina again. The Clockwork dying a death. Brutal stuff. So now actually suddenly 7-2. After that first blood, it's been more or less one-way traffic, and the gold lead is slowly building out of the laning phase here. Last hits are still being kept up on sort of reasonably well, but you can see a significant edge in each lane now, except for mid. But obviously mid did just get that kill. Gachi's going to go for another. Psycho is level 6. Can he get the full combo off before he gets mana burn? He can't, but he still has mana for Laguna. Gachi really trying his luck here. There's actually multiple Dire heroes coming in now. It was all a trap. Cookie on the creep. Great stuff from Unleashy. They're going to get the kill on the enemy mid laner. Crucial stuff here. Psycho trying to juke the Primal Beast. He can't do it as the charge, the onslaught is redirected, but Big Knee Lover is not quite level 6. He does not have the Pulverize to follow up, and Psycho is able to sneak away thanks to a good LSA. Just kind of holds his breath and walks out of that one. Scary stuff, but the rotation, the real committed move from both supports is successful. AUE Black, their game would be in an awful spot if that hadn't worked out. Even if Psycho dies there, it's pretty grim for them, but they get the kill on the Invoker, they get the XP for their Lena, and they force an unsuccessful rotation out of the Primal Beast, which hopefully for just a second lets off some of the immense pressure on top lane. Never mind. Big Knee Lover, where was that? Actually does get a kill in mid lane again. I didn't even see. I thought that was the action at top. It's actually Gachi who moves to top lane, having already built the Urn of Shadows. He's able to kill off the Pudge, who was trying to get something done in the easy camp. You can see the increasing desperation up in that top lane as Grimstroke just exerts his authority for the second game in a row that we've seen this pick come out of the UQ boys. He is top CS in the laning phase, and no surprise either. This is the power of Core Grim. But of course, it's not even as though they've sacked the mid lane, because the low HP laner just gets picked off by Big Knee Lover. Again, didn't even use that ultimate, I don't think. It could actually, probably did. He's gotten a full level. I imagine that would have had to been up. We're going to give the laner the benefit of the doubt. It is a very short cooldown on Pulverize, one of the big edges the Primal Beast has over other 4 positions or other strength cores, other strength gankers. He's not the only one who can gank, though. Psycho, trying to make a rotation of his own, has been scouted by a ward. You can see the Radiant have that high ground ward up on the dire side. Cordo moving through the rune spot. No smoke or other attempt at subdiffusion. Looks like the most they're going to get here out of this movement is a Courier Unleash. You can't even get that. Doesn't want to commit the little Shredder when you might need it to bring down a Tombstone. But they're going to bring down Amos at least. So, decision to hold the Naga in place doesn't pay off, at least for her. Gachi moves back in, though. There's no Laguna. Means he feels pretty confident. He's trying to mow down Unleashy. Has another Urn Charge. Psycho has a guess with the LSA. Might regret burning that cooldown. Gachi's still just standing there invisibly to try and slow down the target, but doesn't have another nuke. The Cold Snap was back up, but didn't want to try it. Probably felt that he would be giving up his life, and there's no hook shot yet, but, you know, it's hard to say that he would have been 100% okay. Just didn't quite have the support there to go for that kill, and so that ends up being, again, a kill on a core successfully for AUE, and an unsuccessful counter-rotation from UQ. The gold lead is still building. It's up to 2k now, but it's not all one-directional traffic. I have to take back what I said earlier. Fat Control, though, he's having a hard time on this Pudge. This is the hero that you really want to have a good start on as part of his strength, right? Insane last hitting potential, usually very reliable and durable in the laning phase, but this Grimstroke pick and plus the Primal Beast damage has successfully bullied him out. And now he might finally get some of the pressure off as the top tower goes down and he gets a bit more space. But that just means that the pressure goes to the other side of the map. Primal Beast, he is pressure incarnate. He immediately destroys Unleashy on that... I mean, I was about to say Fragile Snapfire. Not really a very fragile hero as far as supports go, but fragile enough. Level 8 Primal Beast getting the job done. Is this really a support? Neo is level 4, but that's just fine by the Undying, I'm certain, as G kind of has to deal with this obnoxious, overconfident Primal Beast just scaling with those levels. You can see 1380 health with just a wand and mana boots. Nothing going on there. Just massive strength gain. And he's able to bully around that Exorcism Death Prophet and kind of waste that ultimate. Meanwhile, Gachi is just chilling in mid. I kind of thought they were setting up for a team fight, but of course, Gachi wants his Midas. And it doesn't even matter, as Jenkins is all they need to bring down G in the bottom lane. This is what it means to have strong cores out of the laning phase, and so often we see that be the deciding factor in Uni League this season, right? Can you get out of the laning phase with at least one strong hero? Can that hero then translate that strength into making plays, even if they're defensive, just to help you hold some space on the map and create some sort of opportunity for your weaker heroes to get back in the game, as opposed to just sort of farming scared and hoping the other team doesn't pressure you too hard, doesn't realize the edge that they hold. And I mean, unfortunately, we're starting to see that edge evolve, across the map more and more for UQ. If you're a fan of AUE Black, it's great that they managed to make it into the lobby, but how much further are they going to get? If this is how hard it is for Fat Control to get farm, he might need... Okay, the cookie might keep him out of range of this Naga sleep. Heroic stuff from Unleashy. Can Fat Control return the favor? He actually hooks the Naga, which... probably isn't ideal. Almost gets killed off by the tornado there. Gachi really wants this. He's diving. Fat Control is going to be able to hobble away. A little bit unfortunate that he couldn't throw that hook in direction of Unleash, but obviously it's tough stuff. Naga pretty good at intercepting hooks with all the illusions and just her sort of lackadaisical positioning, a pretty tanky kind of hero, and there was no damage there to threaten her life, so gets in the way, and that means the death of the Snapfire, but at the very least, Unleashy was able to spare the carry from a back-breaking death, and Fat Control just has to keep hustling around the map, on the run from the law right now. He's just trying to find any farm he possibly can, desperately needs to get some sort of intermediate item, and then straight into that Ags, and then more farming. It's a long road back, but at least he's taken steps forward. In the meantime, the rest of the team have to hold their towers as best as they possibly can. They really need this clockwork hook shot, but they've done a great job initiating. In the meantime, Fat Control, that hook was on point. Gachimuchi getting the friendly tip there, and he kind of deserves it. Overstepping the mark, one would say. You probably shouldn't be in a spot to get hooked back that far if you're a ranged core. Doesn't get the tower even. Doesn't really get anything to show for it. And nice rotation. Maybe they thought that Fat Control was going to be off the map farming, but he steps out for just a second, and he makes the kind of play that causes everyone to spam the world's worst voice line 100 times. One day we will be free of the scourge known as Sir Action Slacks, but not this day. Okay, okay, Big Knee Lover, we see some counterplay coming out. The Primal Beast forced to hobble on out of there. He tries to unleash the combo on G, and the Death Prophet will ultimately go down. Just took too much damage from that setup, but at least there's a punish as Unleashy drops the Snapfire Kisses. Unfortunately, the team fight goes south from there. Gachimuchi runs and gets involved. Neo has popped to the Flesh Golem form, and with all of the range damage coming out from this Kaya-equipped Jenkins Grimstroke and Gachi with the, it's okay, it's not a vessel yet, but triple null talisman and that urn, they just gunned down the entire Dire team. Was one of those, yeah, Infamous Amos, I'm pretty sure killed Fat Control, yeah, in the jungle or in top lane. So that was part of why, right? You have a feeling that if Dire are together and they have all their ultimates, I feel like they can still make a stand here. But so far, they're obviously, they can't afford to not be farming on something. So Fat Control kind of has to go up into the jungle and get some creeps done. But having a real hard time there. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a frustration hook there. Snipes the Invoker Spirit for a bit of gold. And okay, now actually, Saikang Ina, he raises the stakes and snipes the Invoker. No way out for Gachi. Very nice stuff. Okay, they're obviously now going to know that there is an OBS there, but that OBS has paid for itself already and a bit more so on top of that. Big Knee Lover, though, he's going to be a real problem. He is farming hard on this 4 position. He is taking the neutral camps, and I love that they've definitely given this hero, like, a decisive amount of farm priority, right? Gachi's playing this less farm-focused Invoker build, and this is where I think this team is very strong, right? It's not just that they pick unusual heroes and unusual drafts, it's that as a team in their overall drafting and gameplay, they have the flexibility and the understanding to make those picks work. They don't just sort of flop a 4-pos Primal Beast out there. They adjust, and their mid laner is capable of playing this less farm-heavy style. You know, Gachi not playing the Exort Invoker, not just in his newts farming and dropping Sunstrikes. He's getting involved. He's using his Midas to keep up on gold, and it's going to result in a very stacked Primal Beast very soon. Of course, he can join the fights a little bit earlier. He's not just a hard farming core. Big Knee Lover comes into the fight. He loves himself some DP right now. He's going to pulverize her. Pulverized with love. And unfortunately, it does get broken up, and the DP doesn't die, so this might go south for them here. Amos drops first, or for the Radiant. There have already been 2 kills, but it's on the supports. Now things are really getting messy. Neo is on top of the Pudge, but he's very tanky despite all the deaths he's taken. G still trying to be a part of this fight, even without Exorcism being active. Doesn't want to burn it because he kind of knew his own death was imminent, and unfortunately, it is going to be a mass death event here for the Dire. They were very committed to that fight, but not committed enough to really drop the big spells. You can see Laguna Blade off cooldown at this point. The Exorcism was off cooldown before the DP died. I don't know whether they were hoping to sort of assemble to take that team fight, but just not at that second, or whether maybe they bit off more than they could chew in terms of very fast Radiant rotations. It is a bit of a signature move for UQ that they are always willing to pull their squad into a fight, and again, teamwork is what's making the dream work here for this team as they look to cement their lead here in Game 1 of the Grand Finals. They're 8k up, 22-9 at 16 minutes. It's starting to get pretty brutal. And of course, one could argue they have the late game edge, right? Infamous Amos picked this hero last in the draft. For the Radiant, at least the counter pick to that was Clockwork, but this Pudge, the opposite number carry, was picked much earlier on, and it was kind of telegraphed as to who the one position was going to be, so you know they're confident in this matchup, and of course on paper it makes a lot of sense that Naga Siren would be confident to beat down a Pudge 1v1 in the carry duel. So you know, the fact that they're down 8k at this point in the game, the fact that Fat Control's lane went so badly against this core Grimstroke, it sort of started to unravel very quickly for them here. And by the time they've finally got this Clockwork online with the hook shot to maybe make some sort of plays, or at least sort of make it feel a bit more fraught as UQ to get aggressive and go for ganks, the lead is already there, and now they're kind of dictating the pace of things. Naga Illusion's going to scout this high ground, going to find not only multiple supports, but of course Fat Control there trying to farm on the Pudge, and immediately Neo moves in, challenging their control of the space. Doesn't really want to fight right now. Amos does want to get a couple more items under his belt. Gachi would love to actually hit some creeps, despite, you know, my earlier spiel. And Primal Beast would love to get... Actually, has the BKB! Never mind, it's fight time! We're straight in. Found on Leashy. There's the Sunstrike. Might only be splashing for that X. Actually, gone and caught all the way back up on that X Sword, of course. It's about the time in the build. But, yeah. More than enough firepower to bring down that lone support. And luckily, it is just a lone support this time. Because the last few fights have been those kind of one death into another type of affairs where... Okay, that didn't really look like you took an organized team fight, but even so, you may as well have, given how much collateral you lost. G is trying to make a more intelligent or more beneficial trade at bottom lane, firing off that exorcism for a tower, but only gets it half killed because the creep wave comes through to tank it, and then has to back off. They might be planning something on Gachi here. Clockwork, unfortunately, had some neutrals on him, and they just aren't confident. They can't see these Radiant heroes, I don't think. Great vision in the dire neutrals for this squad, and with them lurking off map, they just don't feel brave enough to go in on Gachi. That's a really rough sign, right? Because Clockwork hooking Gachi, we saw before how easy a kill it is. You'd love to be, you know, hooking up with the kills on this very valuable Invoker. Of course, sorry, I should have changed net worth a bit earlier, but... Invoker, one of the higher net worth heroes in the game, all the cores of the Radiant, big prizes right now. Now they're going to go. They've confirmed themselves that there aren't any heroes in support. This is just a cocky Gachi Invoker running down bottom lane alone and daring them to pick him off. They take him up on the challenge. And of course, as soon as they hit that hook, it's all over. Invoker, you know, sometimes he can slip out of ganks, but they've brought their reveal and they're not really interested in letting him ghost walk out of this one. So, I mean, Gachi... He has a definite role this game. It is to play risky. Of course, you could always argue that you could play a safer risk. But ultimately, these aren't back-breaking deaths, despite, you know, how good it feels to take down a level 14 Invoker covered in gold. Because Amos and Jenkins to boot, they're the ones running up the score on you right now. E-Blade into combo, doesn't even need the Inkswell damage. Big Knee Lover, adding in magical damage on top of that from the Trample, by the way, just in case Primal Beast Trample needed to do any more damage. Hasn't even activated this 9-second BKB yet. Just the threat of it is preventing all team fights right now. There is no answer. I guess the Clockwork Hookshot actually can, deny the Pulverize, but certainly that's a little bit trickier than the Winter Wyvern, and certainly that ban is looking prescient right now. They didn't really need to worry about the healing or the percent health damage. They were just concerned with Big Knee Lover getting off these channeled Pulverizers, and I think I underestimated how big a part of their game plan this Primal Beast was going to be in the draft. I didn't really think it was worth it to screen for that. Although, as I say, it was actually for the Pudge's sake, and it was actually AUE that made that ban, so I guess just the accidental beneficiaries of it here. Gachi, they're looking for him again in the bottom lane. They've figured out that this guy is just always on his own, and certainly that seems like an easier take than trying to bring down the entire Radiant team, but Gachi, he's just sneaking around. I don't think we have the invis-detecting rockets just yet. No, that's at level 20, so we are very far off this Clockwork. Not half that level just yet. And instead, Gachi is just scouting for the team. There's a Radiant sentry there so that he knows that he's clear of vision. Now he's going to open. He puts out the Cold Snap onto the Pudge. No immediate follow-up, but Big Knee Lover is there. Pops the BKB. There's the Pulverize. Sikangino on the Clockwork. Clever play. Goes behind the Primal Beast and cuts off the support coming through to add damage. Of course, the Pudge, he's too tanky to die to just the Primal Beast, but already this team fight is going from bad to worse. Jenkins, he doesn't die immediately, but Fat Control, he can't get out. Jenkins comes in, ear blades him up, and that's going to be enough damage to bring down the Pudge, even through the Flesh Heap. Now, Neo stalking the remaining dire heroes. They bring down Psycho with ease. The slow from the Flesh Golem, of course, pretty decent. And all that it takes for the rest of the team to catch up after finishing the rest of their plate. They polish off the Lena for dessert. Only the Death Prophet survives, and you can see this Death Prophet just running around, killing creeps in her own base with Exorcism available. As your team loses team fights and loses towers, this is a very sad game. You can see the draft's completely fallen apart for them. It's just brutal when you pick a team like this and you lose your lanes, right? You almost can't afford to, and unfortunately, whatever plays they've hoped to have to rally back in, the kills on Gachi have been good, but they haven't been enough. And these teams, every time they've tried to fight in numbers or fight against the bulk of the UQU lineup, it's been completely disastrous. They're just getting dominated by this Primal Beast, and it feels almost a certainty that you'll have to ban it away from Big Knee Lover next game. I mean, but then do you ban the Gachi Invoker? It was banned one game in the lower bracket finals, and the other two games, it completely wrecked house when something like what was it, like 30-3 over 2 games with a ton of assists. Obviously a very comfortable pick, and if anything, the mid lane has been the issue somewhat for UQ whenever they have been sort of having a more difficult time through this season. I'm not going to say it's because of Psycho's gameplay per se, but you can see how much help Gachi gets in the early game, right? That crucial kill at the runes that really started to flip the momentum. That kind of support hasn't been there for the Lina, so maybe you need a support with the bans and take out this threatening Gachi Invoker that can be so flexible in how it backs up the team. But, yeah, the fact that I'm already talking about their Game 2 and Game 3 drafts says something about how this game's going. The lead continues to inch higher and higher for the side of the devoted lover Chads. I got my teams mixed up a little bit there. My apologies. It is going to be AUE who are up against the ropes. Here's Big Knee Lover. Catches G in the corner. No rope there. Just some hard turnbuckle pounding the Death Prophet into the ground over and over. She's actually going to live. I really thought the zombie was going to finish G off there. I was about to read his obituary, but gets a heal up. Unfortunately, the tower will not be so lucky. It does not survive. Infamous Amos claims that. And this retreat is still more of a rout. They are bullying Dire Heroes back into the base. This Meteor is almost certain to claim the Clockwork, especially with that E-Blade on top of it. Amos just... Jenkins absolutely streaking the field right now. Devastating foes. And Gachi... Maybe getting into a little bit of trouble here. Walks up the hill into Fat Control's Pudge. Is he going to be able to survive these tower shots? Oh my god. The power of Spirit Vessel heals him up. He's able to survive through all of that, thanks to getting bailed out by the supports. And meanwhile, in the back of things, Amos and Neo, they mop up the remaining heroes. It's already a dieback from Psycho and the Lina. Further buybacks from the heroes who still have it, but this is very much, honorable last stand kind of feeling. Not even desperate last stand, because I don't think that even AUE really have any illusions that they're going to come back in this game. It's been tough for them. Yikes. And Jenkins, just look at this absolute specimen on the Grimstroke. I said, look at the Grimstroke. What is this follow cam? Look at this, Chad. Look at this guy. You love to see it, don't you? You love to see a non-standard core pick paying off in such a big way. But, obviously it's been a team effort overall. This Undying pick has done its job. It's hard to get shocked nowadays when an Undying dominates the game. See him actually picking up. That's a pretty big item. The Holy Locket. Going to be all but impossible now to bring down this Amos Naga. Obviously, the initial synergy of these two heroes is how the sleep sets up the tombstone and the net afterwards, allowing you to generate a ton of zombies and really let them get in some work. But, generating a ton of extra mirror images and stacking up all those zombies through the sleep doesn't hurt when it comes to Soul Rip, and that's going to be a ridiculous heal now on Amos, if they ever need to heal Amos, that is, or really on anyone else. Fat Control, he finally has the Aghanim Scepter, but even at 26 minutes, this game's already over. Pudge, he can't even get the hook off on the catapult. It's so unfortunate. That summarizes the game for them thus far. Just really, everything goes wrong from the jump, and once again, you have to imagine draft is a factor. This Clockwork pickup has been solid, but if you wanted this Clockwork to try and dominate the game, you should take a leaf out of what was done with this Primal Beast pick. They really gave Big Knee Lover a lot from the very start of the game in terms of farm, space, levels, focus, letting him dictate the plays. It took so long to get this hookshot online, and for a moment there, we could see that it was maybe a bit of a leveling factor, but it feels like there was just too much momentum against them at that point, and it's all added up to the point where now you're 22,000 gold down without having lost a single lane of racks at just 26 minutes. It's very rare that we approach that 1k gold lead per minute mark without a racks being taken already, but that's just the level of efficiency that's been, demonstrated in this game so far by the devoted lover Chads. They are here to win. They are here to win big, stamp their authority on the Uni League finals. They're going to stamp on Fat Control again here. This poor man, he can't waddle his way out of anything today. 0, 7, and 2 on your one position Pudge. Maybe you can't afford to telegraph the pick this early. It was sort of, again, the kind of draft where it looked like they might be a little bit flexible, but you could kind of tell what the positions were, and then, unfortunately, if you don't end up flexing it, maybe they would have been better off picking a traditional carry, right? We could see all of those late-game bans late in the draft from UQ were on traditional safe lane heroes, and that probably wasn't a psyop of any kind. They're probably mostly scared of some, Juggernaut or Ursa or Phantom Assassin or Slark or what have you being picked up in some sort of not safe lane pudge, because playing safe lane pudge into Undying turned out to not really work. At least they have a couple more games to address this, because this game might be beyond their reach. At least Gachi's within their reach. They take him down for another brazen uphill dive. Can't keep him alive forever with those sorts of moves, especially when Amos isn't around to bail him out, but they probably don't need him to get the job done. The rest of the team now moving in. Amos, of course, with that second life. Roshan was taken while I was discussing hero matchups. Big Knee Lover kind of just charges heedlessly towards the fountain. He gives up his life. They are just going after the kills. They are sending a message. They're also sending a lot of gold away at the die. You probably don't want to give up everything. Another mega kill streak brought down. Unleash she did buy back to make that happen with the kisses, but that's worth it. And so still no lane of racks taken, and a lot of gold handed back the other way, but even after that bit of mass feeding from the Radiant, 23,000 net worth. It's really hard to, even after that, get excited about a throw. It just seems very, very, very difficult to imagine a scenario where Amos doesn't eventually just roll over the dire base like an inexorable wave. But it would help if his team waited for him. We'll say that much. Psycho. Wow, nice little bottle pop there. The Invis rune. Actually, I think he had to... No, sorry, it was the Shadow Blade, of course. I was about to say, that was way too fast to fade time, but he's able to shrug off the net. And now, are they going to catch Amos out? He's in huge trouble here. Of course, he does have the Aegis. That Cataclysm did come down already. Multiple Dire heroes getting pretty low. One wonders whether they have enough gas in the tank to kill him a second time. I'd be getting out of there if I were you boys, but they kind of just know that even if they can't get this done, and they probably can't, they're not going to get a better chance. They stick around and they just kind of hope that Amos was way out on his own. But who do you think this is? Gachi? No, the team are right there at his back, and that is going to be the GG call. One more double kill for Amos. He is unstoppable. He is infamous, and they are looking strong right now. Quick 30-minute dub for the side of the Radiant, for the side of UQ. The Devoted Lover Chad's living up to their name there, and whoa, that is a worrying sign if you are an AUE Black fan. They waited a while to get into this game. One imagines that with the sub, maybe they're not 100% on their top Dota, but you got to play with what you got on the day. And yeah, that ringer doesn't pay off for them here in game one. Certainly the draft, I think, more to blame than the gameplay. Sekangina did his part on the clockwork, but, I mean, 5-position clockwork, I think it was. Can't really do much more, especially with all those deaths. Early game really delayed the level 6, but what else do you expect against a Grimstroke Primal Beast lane? What can clockwork do against that combo, right? Like, every time you're in range, theoretically you can cut off the Primal Beast, but by the time you're in range, the melee range of Clockwork spells, to try and, in theory, disrupt the Trample combo, it's not just a Trample combo, it's a Trample plus Inkswell combo, so all that does is just kill the Clockwork every time at a minimum, and I think you can see, if we have a look at the net worth, by 10 minutes, both the Clockwork and the Pudge are below the Primal Beast 4 position. That's not a winning proposition no matter what team you are, so you know, sometimes it's not really difficult to identify what went wrong in a game of Dota. It might be harder to figure out a solution, though, especially if UQ, they continue their wily drafting ways and they change this up. Regardless, we'll see whether AUE Black can manage it with the whole season on the line in Game 2 of Grand Finals here after this break. Welcome back, everybody, to the AEL Uni League Grand Finals for Dota 2 here in Season 2 of 2022. It's all built up to this, possibly the final game of the season. It's always exciting to arrive here at the summit of the mountain, and right here, sitting at the top, ready to cast down their foes into the abyss, are the UQ Devoted Lover Chads. Gachimuchi Champ and the boys have dominated AUE Black in Game 1, as they have dominated so many lesser opponents throughout the season, and obviously, AUE, if we tip anyone to come back, it is these guys. They've bounced back repeatedly throughout the season. They've shown great resilience and just great Dota in general. But Game 1, that was not their strongest stuff. I'm not sure whether they were experimenting in the draft a little bit, whether they maybe just sort of backed their boy on the Pudge. Fat Control has had some great games, including on the Pudge, but it was just a little bit too easy of a read and maybe a little bit too much of an ask to not ban Undying, let it get first picked, and then run the Pudge into it. After all, whatever their plan was, it didn't work out. They lost that lane pretty hard, which then kind of, as it often does, cascades into the other lanes. The mid lane gets shut down by a rotation. Gachi gets free on the Invoker, peeking early with that Cost Wexer build. It's just a mess. They barely needed the performance of Amos on the Naga, but as is the UQ way, they won't be going back to the same stuff here in Game 2. They're ready to throw another curveball. If this is going to be the last game of the season, that's just one more chance to get in a different spicy build. And what is this first pick? Marcy Alchemist is their first two. Obviously, AUE Black, they banned out the Undying this time. Smart stuff, because they've gone back to the Pudge again. Also banning out that Enigma again. Just big game Enigma removed. And Zeus and Witch Doctor are the bans for the Devoted Lover Chads, which is a little bit surprising, but maybe less so when you see these picks. I just don't want some nukes in play. I wonder whether or not this is a support Alchemist. I guess we'll find out. It does seem like a big... As soon as there's a weird hero in the draft, I'm just like, that's Big Knee Lover's hero, isn't it? That's going to be their weird 4 position for the day. They also remove Wind Ranger and Winter Wyvern. Really not a fan of the Wyvern pick. Meanwhile, AUE, they ban out Naga. So, okay, they've removed 2 of the things that were shutting down their Pudge. The counterpick to the Pudge from first game makes sense. Make UQ show you a different counterpick. But one expects that... I feel like one of these heroes is probably the carry for UQ already. It would be ambitious for them to do that in the first phase, but they love to do tricks like this. So, you can't rule it out. They ban out the Storm, so they definitely don't want Big Knee Lover Storm getting hooked up maybe by an Alchemist Ags or something like that. Maybe that's just the play right now. It's just think of every hero that you don't want to get an early Ags on you. Certainly the ban list that they have does fit the bill for that. They pick up a Death Prophet. So AUE Black running it back more or less. They want a similar draft to what they had Game 1, which... It seems crazy after how badly it went, but that's just Dota sometimes, right? It's not that your overall draft idea was wrong. It's just that, especially with a draft like that, you just missed your early timing window. Just 1 or 2 bad lanes can ruin your whole draft. And so as long as you protect yourself, you insulate yourself against that happening again by banning the Undying, by banning the Naga, by picking slightly different heroes or just a slightly different pick order, there's no real reason that you have to give up on the plan overall. And if this is what AUE Black practice, then they're going back to it. But, speaking of the well that you go back to, Morphling was banned in Game 1. This time, this wellspring of great power that we've seen throughout the international open qualifiers, or sorry, not open qualifiers, last chance qualifiers, will be represented on the battlefield for Game 2 of the Grand Finals in Uni League. Arc Warden as well. That's a very spicy duo. This seems like, and in this case, I'm revising my estimation. This is going to be Arc Warden and Marcy supports. Safe lane, Morphling, mid lane Alchemist. Maybe off lane Alchemist, but I think mid lane out. Unless they think that off lane Alchemist is a counter to the Pudge, which I could see. But this is the kind of gameplay, right? Maybe it's a mid arc for Gachi. That seems almost too pedestrian for this squad, but. You know, Arc Warden is one of those heroes, every time you see a hero where it's like, oh, you know, that nuke is kind of good. It's not usually the focus of the hero, but he's got some decent spells. That's the kind of hero that Big Knee Lover seems to be asking Gachimuchi for in these drafts. So, good old Gachi has been more than happy to enable this depravity for the whole season, because why not? It's worked out. They're in the Grand Finals a game up. They've won a lot of the games where they've had these weird picks. Certainly hasn't slowed them down at all. AUE Black, they grabbed the Chaos Knight. Can't argue with that too much. Been a very stable hero, carry hero throughout, and certainly adds a little bit more depth to their strategy than they had in game one, right? Scaling better than the Pudge. Obviously, can still be flexible in the lanes. We did have that meta a couple of patches ago where offlane CK was all the rage. Not saying that's what they should do with it, but at least they have the ghost of flexibility lingering around their draft. And IO, the last pick for the devoted lover Chad. So they're certainly taking a bit of a risky draft here. Very little in terms of control, right? Their only stuns are the Alchemist Concoction and Marcy's Rebound. And other than that, they are relying on positioning, basically, from these heroes. But even so, only a couple of their heroes really have positioning tools. Obviously, Morphling and Marcy can bounce around, but Arc and Alchemist are pretty static. So it's going to be a real risk here. But obviously, we've seen what Morphling can do if it's allowed to get to the late game. I'm interested to see how they intend to bridge the gap to that late game. Because, like I said, UQ, they've shown a lot of understanding about how to make their picks work. So I'm assuming this isn't just like classic pub 4 carry draft where everyone's hiding in the jungle farming. And there you go, Neo is going to be playing the Alchemist. Big Knee Lover on the Marcy. Gachi playing Core IO. It is TI season. IO is your core hero. Jenkins picking the Arc Warden, so unless this could actually be a change-up. It could be safe lane IO, mid lane Arc from Jenkins. But then again, Infamous Amos is on the Morphling, so offlane Arc Warden with Alchemist support. Who knows what's happening in the brains of the devoted lover Chad. So the reckless, the madmen. But AUE Black, they finished their draft off more conventionally with a Skywrath Mage. Great follow-up to CK, Pudge, and Primal Beast. All heroes that are very good at holding you on the spot. And, of course, that's going to give Psycho a ton of chances, because this isn't just any Skywrath Mage. This is a core Skywrath Mage. So they are also going big or going home here in Game 2. And they are the ones who are at risk of going home here. Devoted Lover Chads have got a game in hand. Their draft can afford to maybe be a little bit risky if they want to play it loose, and we know that they do love that style. But AUE Black, this has to be their best Dota. You know, they had the warm-up game. That's over now. No second chances anymore. So we'll see what they can do as we get into the game. Of course, as we do get into the game, I'd love to thank our sponsors once again. First of all, we have Predator, the gaming PC partner of the AEL Uni League. You can discover your next favorite game by playing over 100 high-quality games with your new Acer and Predator Gaming Windows 11 PC and 1 month of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate into the bargain. With new games added to Game Pass all the time, there's always something new to play with Predator. And then you can also help yourself out with AOC, some tech from them. They're our monitor partner. They offer the best viewing experience in the league. They're a global leader in monitor display technology, and for more than 50 years, they have delivered that exceptional viewing experience to millions of their loyal customers worldwide, including myself and many other AEL stalwarts. And today, they don't just offer gaming monitors, but also monitors for home and office use as well. Very stylish products. Make sure you pick up something from AOC. Last of all, we do have Rig, the headset partner of the AEL Uni League, delivering superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. Pick up a Rig headset, join the Rig team, enhance your gaming experience. All that being said, now for, maybe the last time, those sponsors, we've been with them for another season, and it's been a great one. It's been a great one, certainly for the side of the devoted lover Chads. Can they really put the cherry on top of it here? This would be a huge win with a really sick draft. I'm excited to see the support Alchemist go off. I'm excited to see Jenkins on this Arc Warden, hanging around the safe lane. Curiously, core-like items here. Amos as well. So, is this actually going to be the Gachi offlane IO? It's impossible to say right now. Does seem more likely that it's going to be some sort of Arc Warden offlane, but I'm sure it's just based on there's some particular matchup they've sniffed out here. Maybe even against the supports that they really like. And I mean, they were able to crush game 1 off of a good lane matchup, so why wouldn't they try it again? Both teams take pretty forward positions before the runes, but on opposite sides of the map. So instead, we'll see no first blood. They just bounce back to their lanes. It is going to be Morphling safe lane, backed up by that Alchemist. The lanes finally sort of solidify here for UQ. Gachi is in the mid lane up against Psycho on the Skywrath as Io. That's going to be very interesting. Of course, you can build a ton of strength, and you have that overcharge, so possibly going to just try and regen his way and tank his way through the Skywrath damage. And you have to imagine Skywrath's not the tankiest hero. He does need to kind of charge forward. It's a hero that sometimes the positioning is difficult to play it safe on when you're really committing for a kill, and maybe that's where you end up getting punished by the IO balls. Gachi certainly run this mid lane for multiple games now in a row over the course of the playoffs, so again, setting a harder or at least different task for himself this time, but not someone you can ever sleep on. We'll see whether or not this IO mid pays off. Is crushing the CS at least so far. But speaking of crushing, last game we saw Primal Beast wreck the laning phase. This time it's on the other side of things. Unleashy will be playing it. Neo tormenting G right now with these early unstable concoctions. They hit very hard on this Death Prophet, but you are playing Death Prophet into two very short-range heroes, so that Spirit Siphon, you have to imagine, going to come up trumps in the laning phase. Going to be hard for it to go too badly for them. At least that must be the hope for AUE Black after they really didn't get out of the lanes in Game 1. You want to make it a bit more competitive here in Grand Finals than that. Fat Control is going to be instrumental in that. He's on the carry again, but this time he is not playing the Pudge. He's being backed up by the Pudge. Sikang Ina, they go for the hook on the Chaos Bolt, but Sikang seemed to be in position to hook Big Knee Lover. Had to step a bit forward to try and line it up on Jenkins, and unfortunately it wasn't a very long Chaos Bolt stun. Level 1, not quite enough, but does put the Radiant on notice that they have to watch themselves. That is going to be the combo that they'll be trying to pull off. So far, though, all quiet, just farming. And it is farming in all three lanes, right? You got Jenkins here on this Arc Warden. There's some argument that if Fat Control and the Pudge here can't come up with multiple kills in the lane, then perhaps they're not really winning the lane at all, right? Normally, as a safe lane carry, you don't feel like the pressure's on you to be the one making big plays on the enemy heroes and killing them off, right? You just want to hit your creeps, but is it really worth it if you let an Arc Warden, you know, more or less free farm against you? If the Arc Warden gets as many CS out of this lane as the CK, you got to think the Chads are going to be laughing. But we'll see how that evolves. Could see some early rotations from the Skywrath. That would seem like a prime target. Very squishy, slow-moving core hero. No real defense against the Magic Burst. Probably one of the kills high up on Psycho's list, because it's been a while since I really saw a lot of Skywrath mid played, but, you know, it's always been a bit of a snowballing hero. You really want to get, you know, your first couple of items out quickly, and you want to help fuel that with hero kills. Hero's not the best farmer. Oh no, this melee creep, what a traitor! Shuffles around in front of the hook for Sikang Ina on the Pudge. No luck at all there. That is brutal stuff, and the Marcy's going to escape. The words first blood were coming out of my mouth there, but that creep had other ideas, and it just seems like AUE Black, they can't get anything to go their way so far. Rough stuff. But at least the proof of concept for the lane is there, right? The CK Pudge combo is threatening. It is at least ensuring Fat Control gets farmed. Jenkins so far has been also very comfortably CSing, but I guess that's problem number 2 on the list. They just want to get a game for their carry player, and fair enough too, right? I'm sure Fat Control was very frustrated in game 1, going something like 0-9-2 on the Pudge. Gachi in trouble here in the mid lane. Just going to be tanking enough. I think Psycho has run out of juice. No more spells. Neo dies in the bottom lane, but does manage to successfully deny. And, yeah, we're getting some good stuff here. Fat Control in the top lane. Throws out a stun. No immediate hook from Sikang Ina on the Pudge. And so Jenkins is able to slip away. They fling back the Pudge. This engagement started, you know, many seconds ago, and I don't know. Okay, a hook was thrown right there at the end there. He was trying to hold it in case there would be a first blood. Meanwhile, by the way, action in all lanes. Gachi and Psycho trading kills. Bottom lane trying to make for something happening, but okay, it looks like Fat Control should be safe here. Big Knee Lover doesn't get in range for the rebound, although still looking for it, and gonna have it now. No, oh, doesn't immediately pop the mangoes, now does. I thought for a moment there was maybe going to be a bit of a miss, but had enough range, even with the delayed mango pop, gets the dispose back, calls his Arc Warden over, like, hey, we still got this, and they finally get that kill. What a prolonged, dragged out fight in the top lane, but it ends with 2 kills for the Radiant, none for the Dire. UQ certainly continuing where they left off here. Unleashy goes back in with that flashy Primal Beast charge. The onslaught is real, and Neo goes down again. This time, no neutral deny. But Amos, he's just farming, he's chilling. Gachi, big chillin' also. 11 CS up in the mid lane. Both heroes did kill each other before. I think Gachi got the first kill, though. No, Psycho got the first kill, so that is important. Level 6, first up on the Skywrath. I'm sure that's why Gachi is playing back a little bit. But I guess even though we didn't watch it happen, that's kind of the proof of the concept I was thinking about earlier, where it seems like, at the very least, IO should be able to get some decent trades off just in terms of damage to health ratio between these two heroes, and the fact that Skywrath can't really afford to try and juke the orbs too much if you want to stay in range and run down a hero like IO. Gachi sneaks in the trees. He gets most of that Skywrath ult, but he's able to reload out, and Psycho had the haste rune running, so there was no conventional escape. Pretty heads up stuff from Gachi to just immediately start the relocate to Fountain, not try and sneak out the back of the tower. He would have been run down, saw that rune pop, and knew he had to bail. Neo, he has no such out. He is brought down again, and so Unleashy proving that at least the Primal Beast is just strong for both teams right now. It is starting to run up the score here in bottom lane. Not on the hero they need to kill, but any kill is a good kill right now for the side of AUE Black. They just need to get some kind of momentum going here in the grand finals before it all slips out of their grasp too much. But Big Knee Lover, he slips on over that mid lane gap with a giant rebound onto Psycho. And this Skywrath, unfortunately, not the tankiest boy. He can't get away. The rebound dispose combo, strong as ever, and Big Knee Lover continues to be the beating heart of this Devoted Lover Chad's team. So Kang Ina, if he'd waited another second, would have seen which way he'd run, but decides to throw the hook. Just hawks that hook into the darkness. No such luck. Marcy is able to just walk out of there nonchalant. Take the creeps back to the mid lane, goes for the rebound, doesn't get the stun, but still goes into the Pudge anyway. I mean, it's a level 4 Pudge and a level 4 Primal Beast. These are the two supports. What is Gachi afraid of? Unfortunately, Io's burst damage is pretty limited. There might have been enough, a lot more than you actually. Psycho TP's in, very timely. Picks up that kill. I thought they were at worst going to pay with Big Knee Lover's life, and that's probably what Big Knee Lover and Gachi thought as well. But they cough up the mid lane Io instead. That's a big dub for this Skywrath mage who really needed one. He actually dies to tier 2, trying to finish off the Marcy as well. But even with the sort of trailing Skywrath projectiles, there's not enough damage to bring Big Knee Lover down. That man, surprisingly slippery, despite his, relatively low level and insistence on diving. Infamous Amos, he's also got his own dodges going on, but look at this combo that they've brought in. They silence him up. He's unable to waveform away from Unleashy's stun, but they're going for this 3-man play, bringing both strength supports over, both of them short of their level 6 disables. So there's no follow-up, and the Morphling's able to just walk it off. I mean, I like that they went for something. They're certainly going to try and convince him to be a little bit more conservative in how he farms his bottom lane, but you really want that to result in a kill. At least they get one in the mid lane. Psycho actually throws out the tip. Maybe that's the kind of tip you throw more to kind of reassure yourself than demoralize the enemy. It was just to support Alchemist going down, but at least Psycho's able to get a kill in a 1v2 position, which, isn't nothing. And now this could be juicy. Invisible on the Skywrath Mage. He's walking up. I don't think there's this... Oh, actually, walks right over a sentry rune, but it is the dire sentry ward. So the rune is not scouted out. And Jenkins could be in a lot of trouble here. They're trying to set him up for some sort of disable, but Psycho didn't want to break the invis that close to the enemy lines. They couldn't get in range for the CK. And now, despite that conservative play from Psycho, he gives up the chance to kill the Arc, and they still just reel him in. This Marcy, again, just getting on top of that chicken and roasting it. Neo gonna run down the Pudge now as well. Nothing going right for poor old AUE. He could have popped the concussive... He has concussive shot skilled, right? He does. He has level 3 concussive shot. That would have set up the CK. And I understand and respect the decision to not break the invis that close to the tower. He would have been immediately pulled in and killed. But at least maybe they would have gotten the trade. And instead, worst of both worlds type of stuff. Fat Control defending the high ground. At least defending the high ground of his own jungle. This level 6 Chaos Knight doesn't even pop the ult. Just stands firm against the two supports of UQ. And at least this time, they don't somehow pull a kill out of nowhere. It is just going to be the Alchemist going down in apart thanks to his own unstable concoction. G, meanwhile, on the bottom lane, was able to chew through most of this tower with the Nexusism, it looks like, but it's going to be Amos who just kind of slides on up there and denies the tower. It's on 1 hit point. So, sneaky stuff. Gets the job done, though. And yet another time. Oh, okay. I was about to say another win in a litany of small wins for UQ, but they do immediately give up to him, Morphling to a crispy gank from Unleashy on the Primal Beast. Then they give up their offlaner as Psycho rotates to the top lane. Fat Control pulls in that Arc Warden. I mean, that's a disadvantage, right? Their offlaner is an Arc Warden. He's incredibly squishy. Big Knee Lover gonna die as well. Psycho double kill, Breath of Life, and a small lead for the first time in a while here for the side of AUE Black. That's the form that got them to this grand final. Great to see, and the pressure doesn't stop. They have the heroes to make these tempo plays now. They finally have these ultimates online. No! The Pudge! He throws the hook right into Unleashy. I mean, you could say get out of the way, but you gotta know the Primal Beast is gonna try and set up that trample damage. Arguably, either one of them by themselves would have secured that kill, and instead it's like an Abbott and Costello routine. They just take each other out of the fight. Rough stuff. At the very least, Pudge does now get his hands on Dismember. It's been a little while, again, for Sikangina to access that ultimate, but he does have that crucial disable online, making it a lot easier to kill off some of these core heroes. Or just Neo. Nice hook there. Does sniff out the movements. No one can really criticize the individual play here from the stand-in for AUE Black. And that kill, even better, even though it's just a support, looks like it'll lead to a mid lane tower, although despite the 10-second cooldown left on Exorcism, there's no bottle here for G. Might get a bottle charge from side. No bottle charges on the Skywrath either, so okay, finally is able to regen some mana, but still pretty low. And unfortunately, in the meantime, we have seen significant rotation to defend the mid lane. Gachi here, he doesn't want to give up his tower. Big Knee Lover goes right in. They see a low HP Skywrath. They see a low HP Death Prophet. Nice hook from the Pudge. He has to still stand on Psycho, though. Can't, no, okay, Neo, that's just too awkward. You can't get out of the Flux and the Acid Spray at the same time, and that will kill off the fragile mid laner. They also net that Death Prophet. She wasn't able to heal up enough in time, and now the Pudge, despite his attempted heroics, he's just exposed to be another death. This is just like game 1. They can't even take these fights. It's not even like they're sort of really contesting. It's just that they're trying to posture somewhat defensively, and then not only are they unable to save their first hero who's targeted, but all the other heroes get run down as well in the area. The only defense is for Fat Control to be off in a different lane trying to farm. But once again, it's not clear that this hero is going to outscale, especially with the extra kill gold going the way of the Devoted Lover Chads. And they continue to methodically take the map apart. Mid lane tier 1 having been taken out. Now they want that top lane tier 1. Amos is up here now on the Morphling. He's not having his most gangbusters game of all time, but, you know, he's fine. It's actually, again, it's Jenkins on this off-lane core who is top of the CS chart, dominating the enemy safe lane time and again with these unusual ranged off-lane picks. G is trying to make the trade happen. Good stuff. They do know how to play this Death Prophet. You can see that they are practicing these Death Prophet strategies. They have the discipline. They know what their priorities are. But there's some factors of just individual strength coming into things. They teleport in the Alchemist, and the ambush is on here to catch the first hero coming to defend. They take him out with the CK plus the Skywrath. Even the Marcy, there's disables for her as well. Again, Sikangina just hooks Unleashy out of the fight. Thank God there was enough damage to follow up this time. And now, actually, the Morphling, it was the IO there trying to dive the back line, but there's enough disables to just go around. CK pulls him back away from his intended target. He's able to kill off the Skywrath, I think, before he dies, but yeah, Gachi takes a death, and the Morphling has to retreat. Slightly better going here for AUE Black. It's still tense. Their gold lead is narrow, and the prognosis long-term is grim, I would say, especially if Jenkins continues to top CS as offlane Arc Warden. But at least there's some sort of momentum. At least they have a window where their heroes feel strong, capable of making some kind of play, right? As opposed to the whole old farm and hope. This time, Sikangina, it seems to alternate between hooking your own Primal Beast out of the fight and hooking this poor old Alchemist. Nero dies again. Obviously, that is kind of his role on the team, but 1-8-4 so far. And the difference maker here is these deaths aren't really accounting for anything. In fact, Amos, whoops. Last game was Gachi who got caught out a few different times, just kind of weirdly far up a lane, not really getting much for his team out of that death either. This time it is Amos on the Morphling, just kind of thought himself a little too tanky. And, I mean, Morphling is capable of shrugging off a lot of damage, but that burst from the Skywrath is just so intense. Kind of just blew through him too fast for the strength to really materialize on the hero. And you can see that there is actually some kind of map control extant here for AUE Black. First time in the series that they've really been aggressively moving around the opponent's jungle, and they've got the vision to boot. They haven't let those copious radiant wards pop up for UQ like they did in Game 1. And you can see, in reaction, Gachi and Big Knee Lover, they haven't really gone into their own jungle in a little while. I mean, they're even, like, giving up on most of the mid lane right now. Amos has gone top. Gachi has decided that he should be the one playing kind of bait in the mid lane, just dangling himself a tantalizing morsel of light in front of the AUE Black gank squad. Meanwhile, Fat Control, they've kind of sniffed out where he is, farming the jungle, but he drifts back into the top lane. Nice farming patterns in times, carrying him to safety, relative safety, I say. Amos and Big Knee Lover, they still want it, but here's Unleashy already. They anticipated this gank beautifully. They immediately pulverized the Morphling, and Amos is down again. That's a mega kill streak for one carry, and back-to-back deaths for the other. This is starting to feel more real for AUE Black. Still only in the 1k lead of range for their network. And what is Neo doing? He goes in on the Skywrath. He's fearless. He just drops the concoction. Psycho's in so much trouble already. They easily have the damage for him, but Gachi is already dead. Unleash, for the second game in a row, a position for Primal Beast is just running over an entire enemy team, cores and all, just chewing them up and spitting out the bones. Only Jenkins survives. And that's a temporary state of affairs. It seems Sikangina hooks him back in. Unleash with the onslaught. Fat Control. They're just passing him around. Handoff to handoff. He barely touches the ground, this poor dude. That's a fighting game style juggle combo. And in the end, it's just his body hitting the floor at the end of it. Arkward never the tankiest. He was top of net worth for a while there. Now it is decidedly in favor of this Chaos Knight, and that has to feel good for AUE Black. Obviously, they can't see that confirmed, but I'm sure they have the feeling that they are doing well in this game, and they will not slow down. Unleash, he continues to lead from the front. He smokes. It's actually Sikangina in the front who pops the smoke on the Morphling. How's Amos going to play this? He's playing it cool. He jukes the hook. DP wasn't in range for the silence, and so they don't even try the onslaught. No charge follow-up. Neo. Interested in what this support Alchemist does. Obviously, he hasn't had the greatest of starts. Obviously, it's also a support alch. So you imagine at some point the plan is to farm available space on the map, kind of turn that into gold for your team in the form of Aghanim Scepters, maybe a Moonshard or two, but we're pretty far off that right now, and so it's sort of like, alright, he's pushing the lanes out. He can be a sacrificial lamb of little value. He will make sure that you maintain map control, but you've got some pretty hungry cores here, this core trio, all kind of want to farm. It's going to be a while before the farm for the Alchemist pays off for one of them, so maybe they should be taking the creeps. Who can say? They're going to try and get their gold from heroes instead. Big Knee Lover goes in, pops the Unleash, gets the stun of Fat Control under pressure, but he's a tanky boy. Gets the hook out just as his life was about to expire. He's going to be able to heal back up with that cute little combo of the armlet and the Seeds of Serenity. It will be Sekang Ina's life, but he is doing a sterling job right now on the support Pudge. Bailing out his carry successfully. Fat Control really wanted that Pine Cone, but understands it's probably not worth dying for, especially when your support just gave his life. It's kind of insulting to throw that valuable life away after one not even very big neutral creep. So the Dire Jungle becomes the property of various Radiant heroes. Psycho is just a man out on his own right now. He walked over a Radiant Sentry Obs combo before. They know he's here. They're hoping he sticks around here, or maybe they just have the dust. They actually get the Unstable Concoction off on him. There was range on that Sentry Vision. Psycho won't know what's up. He thought he was okay to go there because of the Invis rune. There's no real Invis on the team, so why don't they have a Sentry Ward down? But these UQ players, they're just built different. Of course, they're not built indestructibly. Unleashy does get he does go down, but they ensure a couple of kills onto the mid lane IO and the support Alk. Trade of 2 for 2. Support and mid for support and mid. G has the exorcism out, so the rest of these Radiant heroes, the rest of UQ, they're just going to bail. Amos wants no part of this. He has died enough times so far. Thank you very much. 4 deaths already on the Morphling. A little bit uncharacteristic. But I suppose he feels he needs to get involved, right? Jenkins already actually has this Aghanims up on the Arc Warden, so he didn't wait around to have one built for him by this Alk. He has already got the upgraded Spark Wraith. Maybe that's the intended punish for a hero like a Pudge. The repeated Spark Rate nukes. Or it's just for farming purposes. Hard for us to say right now. We'll see how the game evolves. Sure, they had something in mind. It's very possible the hero is kind of already serving its purpose by just having, you know, done well in the lane and making this kind of a triple threat game for the Radiant. That's never a bad feeling. Gachi has that Maelstrom online and now building towards a BKB, it would seem. Could also be an Ags, but again, you gotta let this Alchemist someone to build an Ags for. He's just making Falcon Blades, which, fair enough, but okay. So we're going to fill up the inventory, the classic, I guess. Fill up the inventory with Falcon Blades and then start going for the Aghanim Scepter components for your buddies. As he queues up Falcon Blade number 4. Meanwhile, Psycho doing a little sad here on the mid lane Skywrath Mage, but that is certainly going to help out as they just melt Big Knee Lover. Was in that kind of scouting, dewarding position. They're going to try for the D-Ward here or try and establish themselves, but they missed this obs that was put up. I don't think that was even put up just then, but they certainly can't see the obs that's in the area. Luckily, with that kill in this Philostone, we are seeing some progress towards a Hex here for the big chicken. Probably also something on the courier, one would imagine. No, just delivered. So, he's got his travels, I think, was what was delivered there. Skunk Ina also has some boots, picked up some tranquils. Very nice bit of upgrade for this man. Hasn't really been taking a lot of money. Okay, Neo expressing a little bit of frustration, a little bit of cheeky old chat. You guys like farming as 5 the whole game? I mean, if it works, it works. They've still got the gold lead. Psycho, yeah, that's probably about as well as you can put it, right? Apes together strong. And so far they are strong, right? I mean, you picked a Death Prophet lineup, you picked this Strength Core Pudge, you picked this Killing Skywrath Mage. These heroes are stronger as a unit. They're not just going to get rankled by some pithy comment from the other team in all chat. Like, they know what they're about. And sure, at some point in the late game, maybe this Arc Warden takes over. For now, they're just sort of feeding some gold away. That clone gets hooked in and Skywrath altered for its troubles. And the scaling in terms of gold, raw gold farmed at least, continues to slightly favor this dire team. So the question is, when are they going to pull the trigger on the push? BKB timing on the CK, that looks like it might be a big giveaway. Pudge, almost in a blink dagger all of a sudden. Got some time to farm the neutrals, and yeah, it's shocking how fast that boy can farm. Psycho, though, someone's got to be taken out eventually. You can't all just stay safe forever. There might be retaliatory kills, though. Big Knee Lover's the first. They pull Amos back in. Just when you thought he was out, they rift him back in. And that will be the death of the Morphling yet again. He is surprisingly killable this time. He's a very vincible man right now. G pops the BKB, so he'll survive on this DP and get the chance to turn this exorcism into something special. They melt down Neo with the ghosts. Now Jenkins' clone is on the retreat. Jenkins himself already all the way back to the higher ground. Gachi reluctantly following, has completed the Aghanim Scepter as well. So has those upgraded IO spirits. Very important, obviously. The Alchemist, with the way this game's going, you don't want to wait on him to provide the Aghanim Scepter for you. But even with the Ag Scepter up on the IO, they can't seemingly fight right now. That fight started about as well as it could have. And even after taking out the enemy core to open things, didn't really amount to a big dub. They got the kill on the Skywrath, they gave up 3, and as you can see, the golden XP pretty in favor of AUE Black right now. Psycho, he gets relocated on, I think, but he just blows up Big Knee Lover. Gachi, of course, is the core in this equation. He will finish off Psycho, but Big Knee Lover probably wonders if he had to come along on that expedition as well. Like, couldn't you have just gone on a little field trip by your lonesome there, Gachi? Pretend your nature's prophet, fat control. Meanwhile, he's walked over to his enemy's tier 2 the old-fashioned way and is farming kills himself. Now, going on the Morphling, this would be big if they can get it, but there is more support arriving, as you'd expect this deep. On UQ side of the map, they have the numbers, and instead it's Fat Control who actually feeds an unstoppable kill streak over to the Alchemist. BKB popped on Unleashy, that's a concern. Neo thought he was going to bail out his Morphling with a concoction, and then the BKB gets popped and it's all over. You can see them turn their faces away. They don't want to look at their carry dying again. Instead, they're going to look to get some kills on the back end of this fight. Big Knee Lover is instrumental in that. They first take out Psycho and then G and then Unleashy. Gachi is wreaking havoc. The upgraded Ag Spirits Their weight certainly felt in that team fight, as well as the unleash from the Marcy Blink Dagger acquired on her freshly. The Pudge's own Blink not quite as impactful in that fight. And in the end, it turns out to be a team wipe, so you do lose your Morphling to start, but, you know, that's the danger. Taking that prolonged fight on the opponent's side of the map, they collapse on you very easily. At least take the outpost first. And instead, that's going to be the gold lead back in favor of the Radiant. Look at that. A 4,000 net worth swing from that fight alone. Brutal stuff. Neo, with all those Falcon Blades, is becoming increasingly annoying to deal with in these fights. Just a raw obstacle. Fat Control goes all the way in onto Gachi, trying it out with the Phantasm Reality Rift. Unleash, he reaches all the way across the room, but this time he has no BKB. 12 seconds left on the cooldown, and so that very long-range pulverize was immediately broken up. No dice, no Gachi kill. They'll have to settle for the Alchemist as a consolation prize. I mean, G is still surging forward, but in the wrong direction. The rest of the Radiant are well out of there, and Amos is in top lane farming. Top net worth in the game still favors the CK, still favors the Dire, and Death Prophet is definitely keeping up, but this mid lane Skywrath has really fallen off. Been involved in too many traded fights, right? 9 kills, but 10 deaths. Oh, they might be able to get Amos here. They really want to continue to punish this Morphling. He is trying to build a BKB, but nothing can save you from that combo. He is deader than dead. Another nice little batch of gold flooding into the pockets of Dire heroes. But when you kill the Morphling, the Arc Warden continues to farm. Octarine now, the follow-up to that Ags for Jenkins. Going to be spamming a lot of Spark Wraiths right now. Really controlling the vision game as well, which has obviously been crucial throughout this series and throughout the whole playoffs here in the AEL Uni League. So credit to them for prioritizing the right stuff. Especially because as we sort of saw play out in Pantomime in the old chat before, this defensive team farming game from AUE Black, it's disciplined, it's efficient, it's kind of frustrating the side of UQ a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily demoralizing them or making them think that they can't win, but you got them on their toes a little bit, you got them on edge. You certainly want the capacity to at least make defensive plays, and that's what they're keeping themselves sort of in range to do, right? They're about as strong as their opponent, and they're making sure that they're able to punish any attempted moves. So gaining better control of the vision game here with the Arc Warden Spark Raids might be the opening to actually getting some successful clean ganks off for the Radiant. But instead, it's going to be Jenkins who goes down first. Fat Control just kind of finds him, sniffs him out in the jungle. Not sure whether that was some sort of invisibility trick or not. There's still a 9-second BK. Oh, it was Blink. Just blinks up the hill and gets him. You can see that Dire Obs that they placed on their last foray into the Radiant neutrals wasn't dewarded ever. Leads to a big kill on the highest net worth Radiant hero by the highest net worth Dire hero. And now you can see UQ, this is the weakest they've looked all series so far. They're kind of just dodging fights. They're in the enemy jungle. You know, they're the ones farming in a blob right now. Meanwhile, their opponents are pushing 2 different lanes at once. All the clever talk is gone. Now you got to knuckle down and play some Dota again. Neo prioritizing just his own items, it looks like, which is fine. Everyone who really needs an Ags has already bought one. Who can say whether or not this is sort of an audible call based on the farm the Alchemist has been able to get? Or rather, the farm that he hasn't been able to get. But, good stuff to see that Blink BKB Alk is certainly going to be a nuisance for this Skywrath, right? I think that's maybe just the thought behind it. Psycho so far has been heavily targeted for that long stun and high physical damage. Not much he's been able to do about it either. Still attempting to build a Hex. So that's 3.3k net worth in a game where less than 1k gold is the difference. 3.3k net worth on a core hero is just sitting there unspent, and in that time, Gachi actually secures the Aegis for himself. Gonna immediately lose it. Yeah, Unleash finishes him off there. Fat Control, just no hesitation. Even seeing that your opponent's taking the Aegis, he just goes into the pit. They know how strong they are right now, the Dire. They're able to kill off Amos while they wait for Gachi to respawn. They kill Neo. Gachi has to BKB Tippy out as he gets interrupted. They've got the big AB piercing reality rift on Fat Control just in time. Has that level 20 talent, and they punish Gachi. That Aegis worth nothing in the end. The coldest of comforts is at least that they don't allow the Dire to take it. And Fat Control hounds the Arc Warden all the way back to his tier 3s. 17,000 net worth. There may be 3k unspent on Psycho Skywrath. 4k now, but there is a solid 3k net worth lead over even the Arc Warden here on Fat Control, and every cent of that is being felt right now. That was huge stuff. Ideal Chaos Knight gameplay, just barreling into the fight. Illusion's already up. The formation out of the Radiant was so disrupted, they weren't really ready to fight at that pit. They thought they'd gotten away with it for about half a second, and then bam! You lose your Aegis, you lose your carry, you lose your mid laner a second time. You lose the supports as they try to rush into the fight, just disorder, conquering the previously really invincible-looking Chads. And proving that, you know, this is anyone's series to win. This is still anyone's game to win, of course, but the difference between this and Game 1, night and day at the 30-minute mark. I mean, the other game barely made 30 minutes. Instead, in Game 2, of giving up their base and sort of looking dejected in their whole attitude and approach to play. We've got Fat Control farming up a Storm, and now turning. They try to take the easy kill on Psycho. Gachi is the easy kill in the end. That is a double damage Chaos Knight. He 3-shots the mid IO. Just obliterated. Scoured from the earth, along with his buddied support. I mean, the buddied supports, they've been taking it hard on these relocate ganks. They're often the trade-off kill, but this time they just turn and take both. And that might be the start of some really serious backsliding here for UQ. Amos is desperately still trying to finish that BKB. These lost fights are really breaking up their item progression. It's been crucial for them. And this draft may turn out to have been a little bit too greedy in the end. Primal Beast has just been such a factor in both games, right? The start of this game did look good for UQ. It looked like it was going to be hard to punish their greed. But Unleashy has just unleashed on them and kind of brought his whole team back into this game with those early heroics, as well as, you know, the consistent follow-up disables from this onslaught. Looking strong. This could be one of the last lines of defense even. If they decide to defend, no, they don't. Big Knee Lover blinks out of there at the last second, was in kind of an aggressive posture, risking his luck, but Fat Control, the Reality Rift, is just a little bit too slow to cast. So instead, the Dire, they just fade back to their side of the map. Oh, full IO Skadi now built on Fat Control. That's your 5k gold lead right there. You've got a whole Skadi over your enemy's most farmed hero. And this Morphling, he wants his, yeah, basically a full Skadi ahead of him as well. And then some more net worth, but, you know, the Morphling just basically starting to keep up the item. Fat Control is already built and is not stopping. Building now into Orchid. This is the build for these heroes now. Juggernaut, Chaos Knight, sort of tank up some early stats, make sure your survivability is secured, and then when you are this, like, fearless warrior astride the map threatening to kill any hero you encounter, that's when you can really just farm aggressively and scale into damage items, get even more control under your belt. And of course, Chaos Knight, never having to worry about the damage, can easily afford to go for something like an Orchid Malevolence, even if it takes a while to turn into a Bloodthorn. The Dire, though, they're not really waiting for these items. That's just what he's working towards as his team continues to, you know, muscle UQ back into their high ground. Making a move now on the bottom side of things. You can see at least they have all their BKBs in order, right? Fresh BKB now picked up on Morphling. Basically still a fresh BKB on Gachi. Jenkins does not have a BKB, but is excused obviously on grounds of being an Arc Warden. They're just hoping he can stay out of the fight, out of the line of fire. But I mean, even if you BKB, you can get easily reality rifted in or hooked in and eaten up. Jenkins' clone demonstrates that for us. They've got Fat Control in the mid lane, watching the crossing, but the rest of the Dire in bottom, and Death Prophet's moving down there now. 4 seconds on Exorcism. You can see G's kind of hanging out, pushing out mid lane. They have to come back here. Gachi is in the top lane, just kind of chilling, pushing in those creeps. When will he begin to return? I don't know if it's really something you can afford to do to relocate back. You need to actually commit to the teleport here, because this is definitely going to be a committed base push when they decide to move high ground. I don't know, maybe they're waiting for the Aegis, but maybe they don't get the chance to wait. Okay, G, he absorbs the initiation. That's kind of what they were waiting for. And kind of optimistic hook by Seekang, doesn't find anyone, but G walks up the hill and also doesn't find anyone. And when they realize that this tower isn't being defended, they are all in. They are all the way up the high ground immediately. So whatever that sort of intangible barrier is worth, that's been surrendered now by the side of UQ. They're just selling out to try and base race this with Gachi. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of physical damage. He built Maelstrom into Ags. He's got a hero killing build set up. Even Neo, there's no Desolator here on the Alchemist. They're just kind of whacking away at it the hard way, and so they are easily losing this base race. They reload out, but this is your core IO who's coming back, so are you fighting this? Are you just giving up on Gachi? What's going to happen? He's gonna bring Neo back in, but boy, I don't know how good this is gonna go. He's immediately hexed by the Skywrath. No way out. He did have some mercy on his support hero, it looks like. They did let the Alchemist go free. But yeah, it doesn't feel so good to reload out like that when the IO is the core. It doesn't feel so good to try and base race like that when the IO is the core. And when he's itemized this way, it's just not... I mean, it shows how desperate they are. They felt that that was a higher EV play than actually contesting the bottom racks in any meaningful way. And so now, well and truly ahead, 10k net worth and a whole lane of racks up, rocking those big expensive items. They're here now. Psycho has Blink Hex. The Pudge has had Blink for a long time. He's almost got his 8th lens. That counts as a big item for him. Unleashy has the Aghanim Scepter for Uproar. So there it is. The Aghanim's Labyrinth spell. That super annoying projectile wave with all the nuke that entails. That's now on the table to really mess up clumps of heroes. And Neo continues to just push out these side lanes, but hasn't really materialized as a force in this game yet. This Alchemist pick, I have to say, has felt like kind of a bust so far. Hasn't made anything for his teammates. He's made some things happen in the fights, but really only a sort of a blink stun, which, plenty of heroes provide that. And in terms of that unique capacity to generate gold or to push out lanes, haven't been impressed so far by the pick. Just seems like maybe it was a gamble that didn't pay off here. In Grand Finals, though, that's it's tough to take. Fat Control now has an overwhelming blink on top of everything else. He's so far in front. Over 6,000, 6,500 net worth ahead of the most farmed Radiant hero and his own number 2 in the DP. And definitely using that farm well. The DP, the behind relative, I guess, to the fattest hero on the map, but still rocking the house here. Picks up a Timeless Relic as well. That's going to feel great. And now you have to imagine it's all over bar the Roshing. Seems very difficult to contest this because, of course, the Radiant lineup is just not built to teamfight. They have to just keep split pushing like this. But we've seen it get punished harder and harder over time. Io gets out of here. Neo, will he be as lucky? He avoids the assault, the onslaught, which means that you'd think he's going to be able to TP back to base. He hasn't pulled the trigger yet, though, so it seems like his job is to actually stay up here. He wants to push out that side lane. The Dire, they are going to ignore him and take Roshan, which seems like a great idea. Fat Control, he wants that Aegis. I wonder what he's going to backpack for it. Presumably the BKB, right? That's usually the smart answer. Primal Beast. Sorry, that's actually Jenkins copying the Primal Beast. Attempted to scout out what was going on in the pit, but I mean, they knew. And there's no chance of stealing it. That's always going to go the way of the Dire. Neo continues on this absolutely grim, forlorn hope style pushing mission. He's staying in the trees, in the fog, and pushing the lane out with the hard to detect acid spray. Now he TP's home, so he successfully propels that wave into the tower, but yeah, we're up to these kinds of real guerrilla tactics right now. Gachi pushing out the lane, tethered to Amos. Amos not hitting the creeps at all. Gachi just being left for dead here. He BKB TPs. He was trying to draw the attention away from the Morphling, who... Oh, that was the... I really thought that was the Morphling due to the timing of the TP. But of course, it was the Arc Warden clone that BT's tops. That makes a lot more sense. Just dies to the Chaos Knight. Of course, Amos rocking the treads this game. I just briefly forgot there was an Arc Warden, right? Again, this draft's so unusual. Jenkins remains the highest net worth hero. Of course, he's an Arc Warden with the Midas. But, you know, this Ags Octarine Core build doesn't look to me like you kind of expect yourself to be the primary carry of your team. Or like you expect to be pushing a lot of towers. Lets you ultimate more often. That's very good. But the Ag says, like, I want to kill heroes, right? I guess it's for push, but... This team, you can kind of see the concept, but you're going to have to stall a lot more than they're currently managing to do before this really starts to pay off, before they can dig their way out of this hole. Unleashy gets all the way out of that gang with a giant onslaught. Good stuff there. Primal Beast, again, showing its value with that super long-range charge move. Meanwhile, as we tick over the 40-minute mark, G in the top lane, building a Hex. That'll be 2 for the team. Tons and tons of disable. Pudge with the Blink Aether Lens. Fat Control, he's in! Back onto another tower. Arc Warden puts down the bubble. Fat Control dutifully stands within. But they can't keep it bubbled forever, even with this Octarine Core. They're going to have to make some sort of concerted defense. G gets driven back by the Morphling, but only into the trees a little bit. Marcy dives in. I think she got silenced. Dies. Has to buy back immediately on Big Knee Lover. This Death Prophet is still alive thanks to that Yule Scepter. Might want to recall the Ghost. Gonna go down, it looks like, surely eventually, but in the meantime, the rest of the Radiant are falling like flies. There's some buybacks. And Fat Control is beyond godlike on this CK, actually just getting zoned fully by Unleashy on the Primal Beast and G on the DP. I thought that at least one of them would die, but that's not the case. Marcy jumps back in and is immediately A-toast and Scarith ulted again. The Mystic Flare, ensuring the Big Knee Lover, so impactful for most of this season, has no impact here in Game 2. They pick up Gachi as well on the back end. This is an entire team of diebacks. Surely this will be Game 2, going the way of AUE Black, which of course... I'm not saying I'm rooting for or against any particular team here, but you love to see the good old Game 3 come out in the Grand Finals, really make a series of it, and that's what we're going to get this game, it looks like. Tremendous stuff. Great bounce-back performance by AUE Black to make this happen. And, yeah, really impressive drafting. Primal Beast continues to, it seems like, be the cipher for this series. Looking forward to seeing that maybe banned in Game 3. Or, I guess, just first phase by whichever team wants to win more. But Fat Control looking way more comfortable here on the CK. And Psycho, despite, you know, a brutal game, 11 and 10, definitely had to work for his bread. They get the job done in the end. This guy definitely contributes. So, great stuff by our other Grand Final team. Fat Control calling for a miracle. They want that comeback. Gonna be hard to get. The Radiant try to oblige him. Coming out of the base. They do get a kill on the Pudge. They might get a kill. No, she has the BKB. Neo dies. Morphling is getting onslaughted to death. The Ghost will probably finish off this throne. There's nothing left to stand in their way. G pushes him away with the hammer. And there we go. Game 2 goes the way of AUE Black. That's got to feel good for them. Bit of a white sweat from the brow moment there. They do not concede the Grand Finals in a 0-2 fashion. They will be able to, you know, at least bloody the nose of UQ and maybe do a lot more, right? Game 3, the decider for the whole season coming up after this break as AUE Black tries to complete their reverse sweep, take out the UQ Devoted Lover Chads, but of course Devoted Lover Chads, they're going to have something up their sleeves in Game 3. You don't play a whole season with this kind of panache and not have a very special draft waiting in the wings. This one, though, that was a bit of a wash. I don't know if we go back to that. Just too greedy, and even with the Arc Warden getting all that farm, it didn't translate into much impact on the map with the way that that hero was itemized. So when Amos died, kept dying through the mid game, it was so detrimental. Took him so long to finish that BKB, and I feel like that's the hole that AUE Black sort of stole the game through. But you know, every game of Dota is different, as we just saw there. AUE Black bouncing back from a nasty loss in Game 1. Can UQ bounce back from this heartbreaker in Game 2 and, you know, sort of fill their hearts with joy? We'll find out, as well as finding out who will be the Grand Champion of the AEL Uni League for Dota 2 after this 5-minute break. And welcome back, everybody, for one more game here in the AEL Uni League for Dota 2 Season 2 2022. In the shadow of the International, we will decide which is the best uni team in Australia. Will it be UQ, the Chads, once again showing themselves to be just that, the dominant force in Uni League Dota, or can AUE Black snatch away this season's title from them? They ran it back in Game 2 after a disheartening Game 1, and after, with a sub as well, really playing up to expectations here. But obviously every game is a new game of Dota, and they'll have to do it again here to secure their dub in Game 3. It's going to be tense, it's going to be tight, it's going to be good Dota no matter what, I'm sure. We will find out which of these teams actually has the juice. AUE Black, they're going to change it up a little bit. Opening with the Jakiro, they banned the Undying again. This time Primal Beast and Pudge banned by UQ. They're sick of Game 1 and Game 2 being dominated by these big strengthy boys. Marcy removed as well. Big D Lover absolutely wrecked for most of that Game 2 with the Marcy. It may not have ended up working out long run for them, but certainly his playmaking was not at fault. And they respect the hero enough to to dispose of it. Yeah, we've got this time instead Pangolier, which I think we have seen Big Knee Lover rep before. Silencer as well, possibly the mid lane for Gachi. We've seen that pulled out this season to devastating effect. It actually, I believe, got banned in the first game, first phase. So definitely a hero that's in the front of both teams' minds, but one that UQ are able to sneak through the draft now in Game 3 after the meta of this series has matured a little bit. And AUE Black, they go back to the bans now. They remove Faceless Void and also the Lone Druid hero that hasn't been really picked up at all, but something they're definitely afraid of. They respect, I guess, the Amos Druid or maybe the Gachi Druid in the mid. They don't want any of that. Jakiro and Tusk is a very potent sort of support combo, both for ganking and even for defending, right? Jakiro, great area denial, particularly against melee heroes. Tusk, obviously, gank extraordinaire, but once you buy a Blink Dagger, has that powerful snowball save that not every hero can replicate. So a very nice 1-2 classic combo here for AUE Black to open up their draft in a very well-rounded way, right? Game 1, you can kind of see they got exploited a little bit by showing too many of their cores too early. And even in Game 2, that was kind of a tough time for them. It was mostly their Primal Beast, real heroic stuff from Unleashy, which was able to get the job done. But yeah, in the end, this time for Game 3, with everything on the line, they're playing it more conservative, and I respect that. I think that's probably the way to go. By the way, UQ, they've removed the Death Prophet, which we have been playing around for 2 games now, so they're going to say, okay, you guys change it up a little. You show us something different, right? What else are you comfortable with? And they ban out also the natural counter to the Pangolier in the Bloodseeker, as well as the Clinks. They leave the Grimstroke in the pool, right? Which makes me think that AUE, I mean, not only is it a great counter to Pangolier, but it is a hero that UQ love themselves to play. On the other hand, having already picked up Tusk and Jakiro, you'd have to play one of them core. Both of those heroes have been played core recently to some effect, so I wouldn't have been surprised, but they go for the Clockwork instead. Good enough. Very decent way to start fights, right? If you open up a fight with Hookshot into, cogs, you're almost always going to beat the Silencer to his ultimate, and then at that point, how good is the Global Silencer really? Like, depending on how caught out the player is, you probably can't fully extricate yourself from a Power Cogs gank in that amount of time. And so that's one way to ensure that you can still make the plays you need to around the map, especially if UQ intend on using the Silencer to, say, play defensive, the way they did around the Naga Siren in Game 1. I'm not sure that's the case, though, because, like I said, the last time we saw them pick this hero, I'm pretty sure it was Gachi's hero in the mid lane, and they just ran a train on their opponents, just going for kill after kill after kill, stacking up huge int on the Silencer. Now, granted, that was against a Bounty Hunter-led team, so it was kind of just a bloodbath for both sides, with the Silencer naturally coming out ahead. But yeah, you could see here, they weren't banning the Grimstroke because they are picking the Grimstroke. So this is a very interesting setup now. Looks like possibly offlane Grimstroke with a Pangolier support, right? Again, that's the sort of melee support hero who can fling himself into the enemy team to land those ink swirl combos in the early games, whilst adding a couple of nukes worth of damage himself. You've got Silencer in the mid lane as the core, and Juggernaut in the safe lane as the core. That seems like a pretty stable kind of setup. Certainly you would expect these to be 3 cores. I don't know if Silencer support is really real enough. But devoted lover chads, they love to mix me up. They love to mix everyone up at home. Love to keep things really loose and keep you guessing. But AUE Black, they've been the more conservative, we'll say, sort of fundamentals team in this series so far, especially when it comes to their drafts. What can they do to pick a solid draft that attacks the sort of at least apparent weak points displayed by UQ here? It feels like, again, UQ might be skimping a little on the team fight, less so than last game, but there's still very little in the way of stuns, right? Even the stuns that they do have right now in the Rolling Thunder and the Inkswell, they take a little bit of setup. They're not really kind of good immediate reactive stuns. So Clockwork and Tusk already start you down the path of getting the good initiation on your opponent who's not set up to counter-initiate effectively, to reverse that momentum in a team fight once you establish it. So why not keep going down that line? Why not pick up the sorts of carries that can continue to dive? The Chaos Knight is still in the pool and absolutely went off in game 2. It's got a good matchup against the Juggernaut, but they don't pick it straight away. They pick another sort of hoofed, horse-related hero. It's going to be the Centaur War Runner. And that's not a bad pick either, right? Like, obviously a very tanky hero, definitely capable of shrugging off a lot of punishment in the laning phase, challenging the Juggernaut. It's got that big auto attack damage and big health pool, so that it's sort of hard to get aggressive on. But this could easily, they also have to respect the possibility, of course, I'm getting hyped up over the Grimstroke core. This could as easily be the deadly Grimstroke Juggernaut kill lane, and I don't think even Centaur War Runner really wants to step to that. So, you know, a lot to consider here for AUE, but they do at least have that option, recognizing their opponents lack control to bail out of a gank or get into a gank. You know, if your Clockwork hits a hook shot, you can stampede in. If someone on your team gets Blink Rolling Thundered and then there's sort of this follow-up with Inksaw and such, you can stampede out of there, and Stampede can get your team out of there even when they get soulbound together, which is crucial. So, AUE Black, I like this draft so far. Now back to the bans. Slark's out of the pool. Timber's out of the pool. By the way, I didn't catch the Slark in the last banning phase. But Timber's removed. UQ have banned out Templar, Assassin, and Morphling. So they're certainly ready for another carry. And I do like the way they think, at least with their opponent, right? Banning those physical burst heroes, mobile physical burst heroes as well, that could get to the back line, that could devastate the Juggernaut through his spin, could devastate the Pangolier through his roll, and they're going to be hard for initial disables to land on. But there's their initial disable, right? They've got the puck. So now you can hit Dream Coil into Global, into Rolling Thunder. It is going to relegate one of these heroes to a supporting role, or a couple of these heroes to a supporting role, but it looks like it will be support Grimstroke, support Silencer now maybe, or support Grimstroke, support Pangolier, support Silencer still, if they want that. But it just seems like the Juggernaut Grimstroke lane might be too juicy to give up. Although if it is just a Centaur, perhaps you prefer the harassment of a Silencer, right? Like, there's one thing to say is that Juggernaut certainly isn't vulnerable to being killed in many different lanes, and so maybe you feel safe just putting the Silencer there to just be a turret and launch Glaze. AUE Black, wow, what a last pick to stake the entire Uni League season on. They go back to the Arc Warden that their opponents lost with in game 2. We haven't really seen them play. Is this No, Psycho's on the mid hero, so it's going to be Arc Warden on Fat Control playing once again that insurance-based hero, the true late-game carry. Still obviously having the mid-game punch. Arc Warden offers a lot of damage and some really solid map control, but they are going to be relying on this late game plan to outscale the Juggernaut of UQ. It will be a support Silencer and a support Pangolier. Jenkins back on this undefeated as far as I'm aware. Core Grimstroke. Gachi on the puck. He's going to try and dominate the mid lane. It's going to be tough against a Jakiro, but they did last pick this puck, so you have to imagine that they're ready, and it will be Amos on the Juggernaut. Assuming they all go to their normal lanes, that is the spread that we've got, and an exciting lane setup it is too. I can't wait personally. It's been a huge series for these two teams. And, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't thank our sponsors, but I think, given that this is the final game of the season, we can leave all that to the end. So, shoutouts to Predator, AOC, and Rig. We'll remind you again how important they've been at the end. But for now, let's just get straight into some unadulterated, high-tier, high-stakes Dota 2 action, and that's what the Dire want as well. Psycho and the boys, they're smoking out of the fountain. They want to get here. They want to get stuck in quick with this draft. Unleashy, in particular, was monumental in Game 2. Really just the last line of defense for his team, it felt like at times, on that Primal Beast, getting every little iota of use out of that hero and its early game power spike to haul his team back into relevance and eventually give them the window they needed to take over the game. This game on Tusk, full potential again, but you're playing Tusk on a team with Psycho on it. That's got to be nerve-wracking, right? One of the best Tusk players in the country is here, and you have to try and perform on his hero while he plays mid. Intense stuff, but it's a great start. Lands the Ice Shards onto Jenkins. G gonna run him down. No, the slow hoof stomp cast is gonna spare the life of that off-lane Grimstroke, and now it's all gonna go badly as Infamous Amos arrives at the team fight once he knows he's not the target anymore. Once spells have been spent, they're gonna lose at least 2 here. That's no good. Amos gets a double kill to start things off, including first blood. This Juggernaut immediately has 400 gold to his name. Has he even bought anything already? Not yet, but that's a crazy start to get. They're not done either. Gachi is still chasing. They're going to bully Fat Control on this Arc Warden. Looking kind of squishy. Anyway, as the game actually starts properly, finally, the teams head to lane. Most of the heroes sort of getting there late because this skirmish was so extended. We're going to see what Psycho can do against Gachi. And so far, it looks like what he's going to do is just, you know, what you'd expect. Lay in some reliable dot damage and just kind of throw a wet blanket over the mid lane dominance that Gachi is so used to bringing to the team of UQ, right? Has really been one of the biggest factors in their run. Obviously, they've brushed aside many a team, and everyone on this squad has stood up at some point. But the fact that he's able to so consistently come out ahead in these mid matchups, or ahead of where you'd expect, is a huge asset to have. And maybe Jakiro can just kind of shut that down, because this puck is crucial to the draft, right? That is the control they were lacking. If the puck isn't really in a good spot to be making plays aggressively around the map, if he has to farm after laning phase, they're going to have just nothing going on, and that's when you might see Unleashy and G start to set the tempo on their heroes, because certainly there's way more aggression packed in the draft for the early mid game from AUE Black. And so far, though, Unleashy and G content to just sort of dominate the lane. CS, nice stuff by Unleashy. Gets an Ice Shards past Amos, forces out a spin reactively. Didn't want to get hoof stomped in front of the whole team. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Big Knee Lover can't really go for anything as dramatic here. They need a couple of levels on Jenkins. They need a couple of levels on Lover. Lover has level 2, as does Jenkins. So now the combos are online. We'll see whether anything evolves there. But this bottom lane, I was curious to see whether any early aggression would happen, but with Amos up to level 2 already and the Centaur and Unleashy, they're just kind of trying to play the economic game here, making sure that there's some farm on the Centaur, and smart enough too, because this is a hero that I've seen flop a few times now. It feels like maybe even the last several times that Centaur offlane has been picked in the Uni League. Teams are just unable to really get the hero to the start that it needs, right? You want to be doing well out of the lane, and if you're not able to get that fast blink, or at least a fast couple of defensive items if you want to rely on Stampede, then you have to start to ask, what is this hero really bringing to my team as a core? But, you know, they're trying to make sure that that sort of bad case scenario doesn't happen. Sakangina, Ringer for the squad here in this grand finals, played an important role in the first 2 games. First as the Clockwork in game 1, then more successfully as the Pudge in game 2, game 3, back on the Clockwork. Of course, even the Clockwork play did hit some clutch hooks to kill Gachi's Invoker off a few different times, but just the rough laning phase really kind of ruined the game there. This time, things look a little bit better, not playing into the Nightmare lane of Primal Beast and Grimstroke at least. There's a lot less damage coming out of that Pangolier, and the positioning is a lot more awkward. Unleashy takes a Courier. No kills in the laning phase just yet. The 2 kills on the board were posted by Amos before the creep spawned. So despite the tangling, and as I say that, the death happens at bottom indeed. After all that, they actually get the silencer. Unleashy with the accidental GG call. I have to assume that was a miss chat wheel. Rare ways to lose a Dota game. Don't worry, they cancelled it. Psycho and Gachi trading quite a lot of hit points here. Gachi really baiting it. Psycho even takes a tower hit. Might have to watch himself. Gachi has a salve. He's following up. Psycho eats a tree. Turns around. Puck's out of nukes, but Psycho is out of health and out of mana. Has to go for the neutral deny. Will get it. Gachi 2-slow up the hill. Wow, the aggressive chat wheel after you've successfully denied yourself. I mean, that's one way to do it, right? Okay, huge snipe by Big Knee Lover. Gets Fat Control killed on the top lane. Can't just hang around on low HP against this Pangolier. Very nice direction of the swashbuckle. Lets him know as well. With the shrill trill of the Siraction Slacks voice line. Both these teams loving that one tonight. Big hit for Mr. Slacks. Hope he's making bank off it. And Fat Control returns to the lane. Both of those dire calls that just died, teleporting back in, of course. No one's ready to do the Walk of Shame just yet. But you have to be a little bit concerned for the laning phase. That was going well up until that point. Now it's a 1k net worth, over a 1k net worth lead to UQ. Once again, Jenkins on this core. Grimstroke menacing the opposition. You know how much I love this pick already, so I'm just going to continue celebrating his success. But as opposed to the previous games, he is not the only one farming in this lane. Fat Control, on a ranged carry, with some good nukes of his own, some strong lane presence, has made it a much more even affair than we saw in Game 1 of this series, or the deciding Game 3 of last week. But that is a point worth noting. This is not a situation that UQ are alien to. They, I believe, survived going a game down in their lower bracket final series last week. And this is exactly how Jenkins on this Grimstroke pick is just a menace. Actually bails out Big Knee Lover, saving him from first the Flux and then the Spark Wraith. Real hero stuff from a core play for his support, but you can't save him from Psycho. The rotation from the Jakiro is on time. Not a hero that's ever really known for being fleet of foot, so you had to put that one in the mail a little while ago, but that's the kind of vision and map reading and view on the game that Psycho has made the hallmark, not only of his own play, but of this whole team in his time as their captain. Really great stuff. Makes the big play, kills off. It is just a support Pangolier, but it's important for both the morale of the team and his own leveling that he get that kill, because now he has Macropire. He lays into Gachi with it, a little bit off the mark, but they get enough juice, enough damage out of that ultimate, thanks to Unleashy's Tusk, that they get to kill him off. It will be a trade, though, of at least 1-for-1, and with 2 supports arriving from the Radiant, they're too late to save their boy Gachi, but they are in time to punish his killers. They avenge him. A 2-to-1 trade in the end. They do leave their lanes alone, but I don't know. I don't think G on the level 5 Centaur is going to kill off Infamous Amos here. And similarly in the top lane, Jenkins having nuked the wave all the way in on Grimstroke. This is one of the advantages of Grimstroke. He doesn't really have to sit there in the lane the whole time being vulnerable. He can sit way back and do this. Just look at the damage from that stroke. They're going in on this. Fat Control's alone in the lane. He is deader than dead. Big Knee Lover just kind of sniffed that one. They knew. I think they got a glimpse on a ward, or he saw moving through the neutrals, or just guessed. Sakang Ina not in position on the clockwork. And once again, this clockwork powerless to stop the Grimstroke combos. They keep picking it up, and it just keeps not really lining up very well against what these lanes can do. Because by the time the melee hero is on top of your carry, it's too late. The damage is in the backline. It's that artillery, that piece that Grimstroke is packing. Look at that. Just holding that underarm, slinging that ink, and really making Fat Controller's life miserable now for 2 out of 3 games. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, they want to send some of that pressure back the opposite way. They want to let the other carry know what it's like. Amos, he is also just wiped out by massive magic damage. This time it's Psycho's Jakiro. Big Knee Lover, he'll also go down. That Macropire takes no prisoners, but Psycho on the Jakiro, one of the downsides of this hero, not really as mobile as hero like a Puck, and so for the second time in a row, after picking up a nice kill, he is stuck in no man's land and brought down, but his team maybe aren't done. They kind of want Gachi, they kind of want Neo, but that T1 tower's doing a lot, as well as the Silencer Curse. Can these supports really get it done? Instead, they're just going to feed away their lives. Gachi gets a double. Gachi wants a triple. Neo is the one to actually pick up the kill on G, and Sakang Ina, if there's any mercy from the creator towards AUE Black, might be able to slip away, or at least deny himself. No, he misses the neutral deny. He gets a salve off. Gachi thought he might be going for the deny, but this orb, he doesn't juke it, so the salve is cancelled. Sakang Ina, he's just trying to buy time now. He ends up giving away a third, so they lost 4 heroes in that tower dive after all was said and done. Kind of makes the initial 2 kills look not so great. Fight recap caught 3 of them, and even then it shows a significant win in terms of gold and XP to the Radiant. When you factor in that they also got this mid lane Jakiro into the bargain, that's brutal stuff. Still only in the 1 to 2k range for the gold lead thus far, but yeah. Amos, top of the net worth charts, doing well. This time, at least, he's ahead of his own offlane Grimstroke. But, you know, that's not really a bad thing at all for the side of UQ. The Grimstroke is doing just fine, by the way. Progressing towards that Kaya, that juicy spell damage. Neo, they're trying to pressure the Centaur. He's pretty tanky, and Neo is immediately surrounded. Amos can't really do too much for him. He gets trapped in by the shards. Actually, they both get pulled in. Nice combination of the shards and the cogs, and they're able to get the silencer, but the Juggernaut, he was holding onto the Omnislash. It buys him enough time for Gachi to arrive, and so once again, what looked like a half a decent move for the side of AUE Black gets effortlessly flipped around. They bit off more than they could chew for there. Therefore, sure, eyes bigger than their stomach. Psycho, at least, he is not part of the death toll. This time, their 1 and 2 positions are farming, and in Psycho's case, he is trying to get some sort of trade, pressuring that tower with the level 2 liquid fire, but it's taken him some time to chew through it, and just like their Death Prophet in other games, it's sort of, if your plan is to not take these fights and to just try and like push towers and farm and play economically, play the macro game, it feels like they are giving up more than they should, right? Losing 1 or 2 of these heroes in the side lanes, that's gonna happen. But when they lose 3 or 4 heroes, that feels like you've been caught out. And in both games, they're also not really getting the towers that they're going for, at least not fast enough to justify what's happening. They got to tighten up this play, or if that's not their intent, they got to bring more heroes to these ganks and take better care of their cores. The gold does not work out in their favor. This time the Radiant are the ones making the move as Gachi arrives in top lane. He's already level 9 on this puck, rapidly approaching a Witchblade. He's got an illusion in the tank as well, so he is full of beans. He wants these kills, but he can't even get the first one. Clockwork slips out of his grasp, and now he's got a bail. His team are being poached on the back lines. He still can't find this Clockwork. Gachi's up in the tree somewhere. I fully lost view of him for some time. He went so far over the top of Sikang that now he is going to try and slip out the back door of this fight. They've got a good read on where he is, though, but his team are there. Unleashy, he fires the snowball anyway. That's incredibly aggressive against a puck who just, after all, phase shifts it. It's going to be the death of him. Gachi commits the Dream Coil. He will be killed off, but Psycho probably going to die as well. He's once again feeding his own life away to secure a kill on the core. At least that is a kill on Gachi. Big Knee Lover. Now he has the opportunity of Rolling Thunder. I think this is the first one we've seen all game. This Clockwork will surely finally pay for his crimes. Oh no! The Arc Warden, though, they track him down. But this is a slippery little support clock, isn't it? Just kind of broke the ankles on that Rolling Thunder. Unfortunately, not able to contribute to the team fight really in any meaningful way, other than wasting a few seconds of that spell, which I guess is meaningful. And oh no, Sikang Ina just walks back uphill. He's gonna find Big Knee Lover and give him the kill back. He felt bad about that one. He's like, I'm sorry. Look, man, I know one support player to another. You worked hard for that. Here, let me hook you up. And he just wanders back up into his own high ground. I'm not sure. Was there a ward there to be placed? Maybe a D ward. Maybe a camp. He was going to maybe stack some camps, but just a little bit lackadaisical. And Big Knee Lover, just with the seasoned game sense of a 4-position player, figures he might find you there. Continues a growing route for the side of AUE Black. It's only 12 minutes in. How did Gachi get that haste rune? Oh my god. They just let him get away. He can't keep getting away with it. In fact, he doesn't. Unleashy hits him with that ice shards and the combined burn of Jakiro spells. I really thought that somehow after Gachi picked up that haste rune that he was going to slip out of that situation, but his greed and hubris are punished. It will not slow him down. It never does. But at least they managed to extract a price from him for those kinds of crazy man plays that Gachi is habitually making in every game on every hero. Once again, it seems like it's up to Unleashy, Psycho, and G to make this stuff happen. Not that Fat Control isn't working hard, but, you know, he's Midas Gaming right now. he's cheering them on from the sidelines. He's that one guy in Hades where you beat the third boss in the arena and he just throws up a banner for you. You know, he's kind of got your back in a heartwarming yet totally immaterial way. No idea whether or not he will ever actually amount to anything. That's kind of his status right now. But they did this to themselves. They picked the Arc Warden last. They knew And so everyone else on this team is just desperately screening the rest of the action away from this Arc Warden. But it's worth noting that they have been successful in doing so. In previous meetups between these teams, and certainly when other teams try to play this style against UQ, typically, it's very hard to hide your carry player, right? In Game 1, it was Fat Control, the one being bullied relentlessly on this pudge. He didn't even want to farm that much, and they would not let him get to the, the Hood Aghanims to start farming, really. Whereas this game, Fat Control, yeah, he's died 3 times, but, he's been given a lot of space on the map. And so you got to call that a win for Psycho and team. Now, though, they are up. Look at, they've found Juggernaut in the Radiant Triangle. Unfortunately, that's not the best disable to open with, but until Unleashy gets a Blink Dagger, which is a long ways off, you're not really going to have a better one. They open with the Ice Path, and they just hope to catch him napping, but he is eyes wide open, gets the spin off. Now they're just going to try and collapse into a team fight. Juggernaut's well out of position for this one, but the Dire aren't actually in that great a position anyway. They immediately just feed their clockwork, as Gachi is too slippery to immediately target. Great Soulbind! These two heroes are food for Big Knee Lover. Only the difficult terrain might save them, but there's just so many Radiant heroes. Both of them are doomed to fall anyway. The damage just adds up. Big Knee Lover rolls through the Centaur. The Omni Slash is going to polish him off, and they're able to... Okay, they get a punish kill onto that Pangolier, but this is the Arc Warden. You really actually didn't want him at the fight once it starts going that badly, but there's no real way out for him. No boots of travel up yet. So he just takes the one kill he can and then goes down, feeding away his own net worth towards the infamous Amos Juggernaut, the worst place for it to go. He's still in striking distance, about 1,200 net worth lead difference between the two carries, but after that, it gets a bit shaky for the Dire, for AUE Black, and even then, the fact that Amos' Grimstroke, sorry, not Amos' Grimstroke, Jenkins' Grimstroke, I don't know why I keep getting that wrong. Jenkins' Grimstroke continues to just rack up the money, man. Stroke of Fate is a hell of a spell. He is cooking. Look at that E-Blade. A little bit of a non-bow with your own Juggernaut there, one might argue. But certainly with the rest of your heroes, you're looking fine. Gachi. Is he... Okay, I thought for half a second we might see a Dagon. I wouldn't even be mad, right? You've got an E-Blade on your team already. You've got Soulbind on the squad. Your enemy's carry is incredibly squishy and unlikely to rush a BKB in the near future. But they're playing it safe. Speaking of playing it safe... Okay, I thought that was an initiation, but it's just Psycho relentlessly getting onto some creeps. Still, though, both teams are aware they're there. Dire, they get that crucial vision. Clockwork helping them out. His contribution last team fight was, we'll say minimal, but the vision game, he is holding strong. Unfortunately, their ward control is being challenged. You've got this nice little up here, though, that ob's there, so they're not unaware of what's happening, certainly. And it's not like the UQ boys are going to expect them to have that sort of second line of warding so deep. So that may prove instrumental, although they've been unable to dodge this gank. Mid lane Jakiro kind of just has to tough it out. He gets put in the snowball, so great save. He's able to at least get some spells off. Macropyre is down. Fight is on top of it, but everyone is silenced right now. The global, no one has the items to get it off. There's no Yules, there's no BKBs. The full global silence duration just ends the team fight on the spot. It's so rare that you see that out of support silencer this deep in the game, but they just haven't been able to afford to itemize against it. And I thought this fight was over. Clearly, so did AUE Black. But those two heroes kind of licking their wounds and limping back from behind their tier 2 towers are suddenly leapt onto by Big Knee Lover, Blink on the Pangolier, and Gachi. No Blink, but just a puck. They find those extra kills, and again, it's those. It's always the sloppy 1 or 2 more kills than you really feel like should happen. I feel like that ultimately is what's going to add up to be the demise of AUE if they can't turn this around. They just give up too much. In addition to this mid-Jakiro, the experiment's not working out. I mean... They have just been able to punish his positioning too effectively. He can't keep dying like this. His team can't keep dying like this, guys. This is the grand final. This is game 3. You worked so hard to reel this series back in game 2 with a stand-in. They certainly have looked like they want this. But game 3 so far, it's just another non-starter. 10k gold is the difference in net worth. 17 minutes in. High ground is not breached there, but it was touch and go for a minute. And again, the fact that every time this Jakiro steps near the fight, he is killed. His item progression has been obliterated. You gotta look at the net worth for a second. Yeah. Bottom net worth among the cores, barely in front of the enemy silencer. This is not what you need, right? Like, yeah, okay, the Jakiro, his spells are still potent, But you really want him to have a Yules for the silence. You really need him to have a Blink Dagger potentially, or an Atos to try and force out a spin, or to set up the Ice Path. You need him to have Ice Path leveled. Like, okay, I understand it's not terribly good against some of their heroes some of the time, but it's fairly good at catching these heroes after their spells have been used. It's still definitely a worthwhile spell, but even his level progression has been slowed down immensely, right? Like, this is the build he went for the laning phase, and of course the Radiant, they've been taking Roshan in this time. The Dire have been milling about helplessly. They kind of know what's going on, but what can they do about it? G on the center, of course, I did worry about this sort of proving to not be worth very much, right? The Stampede is just not a spell that the team's been able to make that much use of. The Dream Coil kind of shuts it down in a lot of ways, and of course the Global overlaps with that, so, you know, this is not a Centaur that's rushed into Guardian Greaves or seems to have a BKB on the way. That's going to continue to really limit his usefulness for the foreseeable future. And unfortunately, the foreseeable future may comprise the entire rest of Season 2 in the Uni League here. Because, you know, again, if you're just tuning in, this is Game 3 of the Grand Finals. Team's currently locked at 1-1. It's been an heroic struggle so far for both, but Gachi and Amos have been on point this whole time. Jenkins has looked utterly unstoppable on this core Grimstroke. No team has an answer to this. The answer is obviously buying BKBs, but, like, you know, how soon do you have a BKB, buddy? On what hero, right? I mean, maybe that's the reason why you should have picked some more heroes that rush BKB. But, too late for that now. You gotta fight with what you got. Big Knee Lover, ready or not, he is in your base, rolling the thunder on or out for your team. Amos, tanking the tower maybe a bit more than he needs to. He does have the Aegis, but that's no reason to throw it away. They fall back, and of course, Fat Control does have that safety blanket, safety bubble, of being an Arc Warden and being able to keep the tower somewhat safe from melee heroes. You have to go very deep into the base, as Infamous Amos, if you want to actually hit this tower for any meaningful amount of time. But of course, that means that's why we saw the Rolling Thunder play before, right? If Big Knee Lover catches the right heroes there, or enough heroes there, and then Gachi decides to follow up, they're going to try and kill you, and then just, you know, sort of mop up your base as an afterthought. But that's going to be tough. They do have Global up now. If it's ever going to happen, they're either going to wait 30 seconds for Rolling Thunder, but I don't know. They haven't really been a waiting team this season. They are called the Ultra Chads, or in this case, the Devoted Lover Chads, but we all know. They love to get aggressive. They're actually going to go out of their base now. They're not waiting to get initiated on uphill. They understand that it's better if they can get a catch first, and they catch the Grimstroke. That's a great one, but there wasn't faith from the team. They kind of followed out of the base. There was a circle drawn by the Fat Control Arc Warden. Okay, I think they were just trying to let G scout out in case it was 5 heroes. They didn't lose the whole series right there. We don't know. Let's see whether this split initiation works. It does get them the kill on Jenkins eventually. You know what? It actually has paid off. They kind of staggered that initiation so much. I wondered whether they would end up actually getting a clean kill. They do lose the center in the end, though. The Snowball tries to bail them out, but okay, they feed away 2 kills in the end. Infamous Amos does end up doubling back to mop up the kills in that fight there. Something had to happen. Like, you can't take that long to bring down a hero when you're this far behind and not end up surrendering kills. Both heroes alive in a short time. Centaur, they both actually also have buyback, but yeah, the win percentage not looking very favorable. But I'm sure that was some sort of morale boost. They were able to get a kill on this key core hero. They're delaying, hopefully, the high ground push. Only 90 seconds of Aegis remaining. Hopefully, you know, if it comes to macro-pyring the creep waves to keep them out of your base, I wouldn't be against it. Aghanim's finally completed incidentally as well for the Jakiro after that kill involvement. That's a crucial one, right? Having the upgraded macro-pyre is so big against this team. Your BKBs will not help you. Your Rolling Thunder will not help you. Your Spin will not help you. They really intended to have this online, I'm certain, a lot earlier. They just whiffed the hook shot. Bit unfortunate, but, I mean, maybe for the positive, because looking at where these Radiant heroes are, I can't imagine a hook shot connecting that doesn't just end with the clockwork feeding for no return. So, you know, keeping them guessing, I guess. You hear that noise and you just sort of, your ears prick up for a second. You check yourself on the map. Pretty much always. In reality, though, this is a high ground hold situation now. 14k net worth the difference. Unleashy on the support task, trying his best to keep it together. Neither support really has much to their name. Sakangin are desperately trying to finish off a 4-staff. They haven't committed the Macropire to the defense yet, but to be fair, they're going in dry without creeps. Gachi is going all the way past the tower. He baits out a lot of spells and then leaves. Now Jenkins is up the hill. They bring in the Centaur, but here's the Global right in the middle of the Soulbind combo. There's still no answer to it item-wise, and so this is going to make the team fight so hard. They're just relying on raw tankiness and on buybacks potentially at this point. They're going to have the buybacks. Centaur goes down to Amos. So far, they haven't pulled the trigger yet. 3 heroes are dead. No buybacks committed. And, in fact, speaking of no commitment, they fall back out of the base. This Radiant Ward, I don't know if that was what gave them vision to start the fight. I think Gachi dived well past it, but... God, they are wavering on the very precipice here. AUE Black. Somehow they hold their nerve. They don't even have to buy back. But their position isn't exactly improving. I will say that with the passage of time, they grow gradually closer to, I hope, one of their heroes having some sort of... Okay, Centaur War Runner is queuing up a Lotus Orb. That will do. Just someone have something against Silence, right? You're playing into not only Waning Rift, but Global Silence. Your team can't just take 4 seconds out of a team fight. You just saw that they all died in the space of that disable. But it just shows how anemic their income has been over the last number of minutes, right? Fat Control can kind of get away without it, right? He's going for the Atos now. He wants that Gleipnir, fair enough. But, I mean, the Centaur, this is what they need at the very least. Unfortunately, they pick off his Courier. I assume that had some parts on it. It was about to. Psycho, I'm sure, yeah, we'll be working towards the Yule Scepter, of course, but so slowly. It's agonizing to watch. He limps towards these, you know, this would have been such a great item build if you'd been able to come out of the mid lane with momentum. If you'd been able to hit all these items, you know, and kind of snowball them together. Instead, it's Gachi who has all the momentum, and look at the aggression he displays. Just going in completely solo. Decides, I may as well use this Dream Coil cooldown. And then backs off. Amos farming still on this Juggernaut. Obviously has plenty of room to grow. Definitely not afraid of dragging it out. 17k is the net worth lead. It is ramping up quick. Ags is next on the agenda for that Jug, by the way. Going to be devastating. Already has the Manta, so very hard to keep him off of using that spell. And by God, depending on who he gets it onto, it's just going to blow him to pieces. I can't help but wonder that the next item, you know, sometimes you see a Skadi or something, and maybe if they feel like it's going to be difficult for them to siege high ground, they might go for that kind of tankiness. But I can't help but feel it's going to be a Blink Dagger, and then that's just going to be the Arc Warden's life ruined forever. Oh, here we go! Double E-Blade! Rolling Thunder in! That is 2 heroes absolutely deleted. Ethered out of the game. Soulbind into the ultra long range 3-pointer shot E-Blade, and then Big Knee Lover out of nowhere with the alley-oop. Just blink, Rolling Thunder, shield crash, dead. Deletes the 2 key disablers. They don't have buybacks. 30-second window now to push high ground. Unclear whether they want it. Obviously, the world is their oyster right now. The game is theirs to lose. They may not want to throw this away. Chikira's buying a lot of time, actually. Okay, and there is the Macropyre on the Creep Wave. Now they're going to have to retreat. They do actually kill off, but that is how powerful Macropyre is. Big Knee Lover had a ward to help and was in that Macropyre for about 4 seconds, and that sticky lava just rendered him down unto nothing. That is just a support, though, and Amos just walked it off. That is another ultimate cooldown used. So, I'll give them credit. AUE Black, they're doing a good job in terms of what they're giving up, right? One high ground push, they lose a couple of heroes. One high ground push, they spend a buyback. Another high ground push, they waste an ultimate. But they are not actually giving up the permanent losses. They're not dropping towers. And so, as long as those towers stay up, I suppose there is some hope. Late game Arc Warden, another mistook from Sakangi, and they tried to find the Silencer, but that mistook just means that the Silencer is more out of position than even they thought, although his team are there, never a man left behind, and in they go. The absolute carnage that this backline is wreaking. Jenkins just throws out all his spells, presses every single button, deletes 2 heroes, and Gachi has enough damage to mop up a 3rd after contributing to those kills. That just might be it. 3 heroes now dead. They go high ground. Gachi making sure that you aren't even at your tier 4s. You better be in that fountain. You better be absolutely sitting back with a box of popcorn watching us win the grand finals. Because if you step forward, your life is forfeit. What other stats? This Jenkins Grimstroke, 9-2 and 19, by the way. Tier 1 offlaner? I think so. And they're really struggling now. The tower is somehow still alive. Thank Jakiro and Arc Warden for that, but it can't go on like this. Every time these heroes step out of the base and try something, they just get smashed. That time they didn't even get a kill back in their favor. Maybe if they'd have had the That Control clone with them, they would have gotten the damage in to kill off that silencer. But even so, look at this. This is not really a very farmed Dark Warden after all this time. He is at 13k net worth. It's mostly that he looks small in comparison to this monstrously stacked Juggernaut, who is 7-1-8, who's been free farming the whole game, who's about to take out his second Roshan. But unfortunately, that's the Juggernaut you have to fight. Right, like that is the Juggernaut that's going to be coming up your high ground in just a second with an Aegis and a Shard. Terrifying. Amos, I think his body is, he's ready. He's ready to end things now, surely. Swift Slash available, Omni Slash available, Super Juggernaut Spin, whatever you want to call the Shard, available. Manta and Mjolnir available. It is so hard to control this man. He dumps out so much damage. Their heroes are so squishy. And there is just not, you know, the wall is getting thinner and thinner every time. There's the Swift Slash. It basically kills off Psycho immediately. That's your mid laner. He's dead for 70 with no buyback. I told you they were running out of collateral. Although Gachi gets sniped. Great pick off by G on the Centaur for his troubles. He will eat the entire Omni Slash of infamous Amos. He is also dead. Buyback available though, and the Arc Warden is still alive. Neo, wow, he somehow snuck out of that with a 4-star. Poor old Tusk, no more damage to follow up. He is going to be dead for the temerity of attempting a kill. They're still holding the Centaur buyback. They are trying to keep this tower alive. Amos brings it down. He's low enough. They're going to preserve the Aegis for 45 seconds until Gachi is back up. Maybe get these other heroes. Oh no, okay. Some lacking communication there. They try the fake back smoke, and then Amos just immediately breaks on a hero. I guess it's just so that the other heroes can't get initiated on, or something. If they were paying attention, Fat Control! Okay, they were ready. He does bail himself out immediately with that 4-star. He's been forced to pick it up, but he's not going to be mad when it bails him out like that. So Jenkins' combo down for a little while. Did not spend the soul by him, though. Just fired off the Ethereal Blade. So actually not really a very long cooldown at all. Fat Control's clone. Wanders back in. They're trying to hold. Centaur is back up. Still didn't spend the buyback. 5 seconds on the Tusk. Sekung Ina hooks the back of the Centaur again as he blinks in. The communication just isn't there between these two. It's unfortunate stuff. At least they don't pay for it with any lives. But I mean, look, it's not like he just sort of walked up behind the Centaur and hooked in. But that's so awful to see when your team is trying to cobble together some sort of dub, and you just both go at the same time on the same guy. Ouch. They gotta be laughing in UQ land. Gachi's back up. He's rejoined the team. Everyone's full healed. Thank you. Juggernaut straight in! Blink Dagger available for Amos. They crush Fat Control. He played it so carefully in the last fight. He's played it so carefully all game. And just as anticipated, the instant Amos buys a blink, he goes all the way in and executes that poor Arc Warden. The last pick of their draft, and it just hasn't paid off. Maybe they anticipated getting more space. I'm sure they did. Essentially, this Jakiro just wasn't able to get enough out of the mid lane, wasn't able to get ahead. And after those early engagements resulted in deaths, again, it's just the willingness and the effectiveness of UQ in their early rotations and counter rotations. Every time you think you're going to make a play on bottom lane down near the tier 1 and kill Amos, yeah, maybe you do, but Gachi immediately shows up and gets 3 or 4 kills back the other way. You think you're going to make a play on Gachi in the mid lane, and you do, but the 2 supports are somehow there before you can even walk back up to your own high ground. These are the kinds of plays that are going to make UQ, it looks like, in a very short matter of time, you're Grand Final champions for Season 2, but Amos wants a few more kills just yet. He's beyond godlike for, I believe this, no, not quite the second game in this series, but he at least equals the feat of his opposite number from Game 2. Fat Control, he intercepts at yet another hook. It's become traditional at this point for Sekung Ina. Throws out another hook into his own hero. That must be about the 5th time this game. At least this one doesn't matter. The game is over either way. They are fountain farming at this time. Gachi is killing his items. Oh, no, sorry. He's dropping mantles for them. My apologies. In case they need some intelligence, shout out to... shout out to Gachi's favorite JV star, I'm assuming. Shout outs to the boys. Shout outs to both teams, but especially to UQ, as they are your champions. Not only of this game, not only of this series, but of Season 2 for 2022 here in the AEL Uni League. A deserving champion, a more deserving champion could not be found They have dominated this from front to back, and they've done it in style. Huge drafts, awesome picks, great team play, some starring roles, a bit of spice in the old chat. That is the kind of champion we love to see here in the Uni League. Wish all these players all the best. AUE Black, they have my commiserations. They also fought long and hard to get here. They were definitely the second best team of the season, but unfortunately, second best does not get you the trophy. And at least in terms of this series, they just couldn't quite figure out the powerful enigma that is the devoted lover Chads. Gutchy and the boys, they bring home another title for the University of Queensland, and great stuff from them. And just go back over the graphs. Of course, it is our final game for the season. Why not indulge a little? You can see here, 15-minute Blink Dagger pickup from Big Knee Lover again, starring in that 4-position role. Gets it at about the same time that Arc Warden really gears up to farm, and then unfortunately from there, they were really able to once again pressure fat control. I think it was probably a better showing for AUE Black than it was in Game 1, but Psycho on this Jakiro, I mean, let's just have a look at the core player net worths here. Sorry, Big Knee Lover, not actually a core, though you could be confused for thinking so. Yeah, and you can kind of see this Juggernaut had a free game, and unfortunately without the Jakiro and the Centaur thriving, they weren't able to bounce back in the mid-game to buy the Arc space. It all just kind of trails off there for AUE Black. That's the way Dota goes sometimes. Your winners, your champions are the devoted lover Chads. Of course, before we go, I'd like to just thank all of those who made this season possible. Thanks first and foremost to Predator Gaming, the gaming PC partner here at AEL Uni League for many seasons now. Proud sponsors, and we are glad to have them. Make sure that you pick up your new Acer from Predator Gaming Windows 11 PC to get 1 month free of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with over 100 high-quality games. You can easily discover your next favorite game. New games are added all the time, so there's always something to play with Predator. And of course, in addition to your gaming PC from Predator, you should pick up an AOC Monitor for the best possible viewing experience. They're our monitor partner here at AEL. They're a global leader in display technology, and for more than 50 years, they have been delivering an exceptional viewing experience to all of their loyal customers worldwide, numbering in the millions, by the way. And of course, today, those customers pick up AOC monitors for home, office, and gaming use, so make sure you join them, and also join the Rig team, because they have what it takes to win, baby. And UQ, they'd know about that. They know a little something about Rig headsets. They deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels, so make sure you join the Rig team as instructed. And while you're joining the Rig team, also join the AEL team. Make sure you follow AEL on all platforms, all social media. It's nice and easy. It's always, say, twitter.com, facebook.com, youtube.com, instagram.com/AU Esports League. That's the URL for all platforms. It's always the @ so make sure you find it and follow it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, as well as Twitch. If you're watching this on the VOD on YouTube, you can check out the live recordings. There are live games all the time. Even though the Dota season has come to a close for now, there will be more and more esports ever onwards here at AEL. So make sure you follow twitch.tv/AEL Uni and twitch.tv/AEL Uni 2. And if you really want, you can also show up for me on Twitter. I'd really appreciate it. At A Wandering Bard. Obviously, it's international season. We're all big Dota fans there. Watch through the international with me. Catch all the esports action that I cover for AEL and otherwise. For us, though, that's the end of the season. That's it. That's good night, good week, good month, good international. Good celebration to UQ. Once again, big round of applause. We'll see all these players back again, I hope, next season. And of course, I hope we'll see you next season as well. But for now, I've been the Wandering Bard. This has been the Uni League for Dota 2. Signing off. See you later.